Good morning. I now convene the December 8th, 9th, 2022 meeting of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Will the recording secretary please call roll? Here.
Catherine Williams Brown,
Here.
Jose Cardenas, Juan Cruz,
Here.
Christopher Davis,
Present.
Michael De La Torre,
Present.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo, Anna Marie Francois, Makita Gwynno Shire,
Present.
Megan Gross,
Present.
Johanna Howitt, Susan Aradia, Terry Jackson,
Here.
Bonnie Clapp,
Present.
Monica Martinez,
Here.
Shireen Aubrey,
Present.
David Simmons,
Here.
Tina Sloan,
Here.
Kimberly Weiss Smith.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Cruz, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, please. Please rise.
All right, thank you. I would like to welcome our new student liaison, Mers Tran. Welcome. Mers Tran is a queer gender non-binary, second generation Vietnamese American creative, community organizer, and student teacher. They are currently enrolled in the UC Berkeley's teacher education program, and get this, they're student teaching chemistry at Berkeley High School, focusing their master's research on the arts integration of dance and chemistry. And I want to see that. All right, I think I'm going to mispronounce this. They grew up in unceded Muwekma, Ohlone, Tamian, close, land, and intend to continue to teach in the Bay Area. On their free time, they dance Vogue in the queer ballroom scene, listen to webinars around transformative justice, and read speculative fiction novels. Welcome, welcome, Mers. Thank you. So that is a happy welcome. This is a sad goodbye, but a happy hope you're going to have a wonderful next part of your life. And it is with great regret that I announce that this is Commissioner Terry Jackson's last meeting. I know. Her last day of work at the California Department of Education will be December 30th, 2022, after a 37-year career in education. Commissioner Jackson was appointed to the commission in January of 2019 as the designee of Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. Throughout her years of service to the commission, she's consistently shown her enthusiasm and commitment to the education of California's children. There's no doubt about that. Her experience and knowledge has made her a valued colleague of the commission. And Terry, I wish my kids could have had you as a teacher, because I would have had the entire year feeling, phew, they are with her all day. Terry, as a member of the commission, your contributions will be remembered by all of us who've had the opportunity to work with you. And we wish you the very, very best in your future endeavors. Thank you. All right. Next, I'd like to remind everyone about today's meeting procedures before we go into the agenda. The meeting is being conducted at the commission office and via teleconference. We have commissioners participating from the commission building and also via Zoom. Welcome, commissioners on Zoom. The public has the option to attend the general session of the meeting at the commission office or participate remotely through Zoom webcast or a US toll-free number. For those participating from the commission office, the microphones must be turned on before you start to speak by pushing the button and then turning off once you're finished. You'll know the microphone is on when the indicator light shows green. The microphones for individuals who are attending via teleconference have been muted to eliminate any background noise that may hinder others from hearing what's being said. Commissioners and presenters can unmute yourself, but please mute your microphone after you're done speaking. With respect to commenting or asking questions, commissioners attending the meeting via Zoom, if you'd like to speak, please use your raise hand feature. Motions and roll call. Because this is a hybrid meeting, we'll need to conduct each vote by roll call. With respect to Zoom identification, we'd like to ask the members of the public who attend the meeting via Zoom and would like to make a public comment to check their Zoom identification. Your Zoom identification is the name used when logging into the meeting. It's important that the Zoom ID is accurate so we can call on you appropriately during public comment. Next, we'll cover the public comment procedures. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who attend the meeting at the commission office will need to submit a request to address the commission card to the meeting moderator. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak. At that time, the individual will be able to approach the microphone and share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via Zoom will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they'd like to speak on the item. Moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting through the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they'd like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual it's their turn to speak by calling their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note, only a partial phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides the public comment. Each of our committee chairs will have the discretion to set the time limit on comments depending on the volume of speakers seeking to speak on a particular item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you're speaking to. Finally, please note this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. All right, agenda item 1A is the approval of the October and November 2022 minutes. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
All right, the public comment period for this item is now closed. First, do I have a motion from a member of the ad hoc committee to Do I have a motion from the member of the ad hoc committee to approve the October 2022 ad hoc committee minutes? No, sorry. We're just going to scratch that. Or do we have it? Oh, we do. Sorry. Ad hoc committee. That would be Commissioners De La Torre, Cruz, and Hartwig. Commissioner Hartwig. I have a motion by Commissioner Hartwig. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner De La Torre. Discussion? All right. Will the secretary call for the vote?
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Johanna Howard.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, do I have a motion to approve the October 2022 commission minutes? I have a motion by Commissioner Martinez. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Discussion? All right, will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Aye. Jose Cardenas, Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Sulan Aradia, Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas. Motion carries.
Thank you. Finally, do I have a motion to approve the November 2022 closed session meeting minutes? So moved by Commissioner Hartwig, seconded by Commissioner Brenner Shire. Discussion? All right, will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas, Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Bueno Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is 1B, approval of the December 2022 agenda. We have an agenda insert for item 1C. We will now open for public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay, thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve the December 2022 agenda? So moved by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Heredia. Discussion? All right. Will the secretary call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas, Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Bueno Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 1C is approval of the December 2022 consent calendar. We will now open for public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
The comments.
No comments. All right. Public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any items they'd like to consider in closed session? Commissioner Hartwig?
I would like to consider number 26, Daniel Lee.
Thank you. Other commissioners?
I need to recuse myself from item number 7, Sarah Brady.
Okay, Commissioner Cruz recusing himself. Others, Commissioner De La Torre?
I need to recuse myself from item number 33.
Okay. Commissioner Cardenas? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve all remaining items on the, oh, sorry, Commissioner Davis?
I also need to recuse myself from, hold on one second, let me get the item number here. CS4.
CS4?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Others? All right. Do I have a motion to approve all remaining items on the consent calendar? Commissioner Jackson, seconded. Commissioner Davis? All right. Further discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote?
Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas, Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Bueno Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 1D is an opportunity to say what I wish, it says here. And that is easier said than done because this is my last commission meeting. I know. And I had to ask Haiju and Rhonda when I started because Haiju and Rhonda know everything. And it was April 2007. Yeah. I started on this commission as the representative for the University of California, ex officio representative. And then I had the opportunity to come into the faculty role and then I had the opportunity to become chair, and it has been just tremendous. And it's very difficult to figure out what to say at this moment. So I thought I'd tell you a story. So my parents grew up in Denmark, and Danish was my first language. And I didn't know my mother had an accent until well into elementary school, when I finally had kids over to play, and their parents would say, "God, your mother has such a charming accent." And I didn't know what an accent was. And I also heard our language a lot and spoke it. Most of our friends and social groups were from Denmark or Sweden or Scandinavia or Norway, and they all spoke their languages to one another. And they all understood them. When I started school, I found out that sometimes I said strange things, and sometimes with an accent as well. And well into my 20s, my boyfriend turned to me one day and said, "Why do you always say put gas on the car? You put gas in the car." And I realized the direct translation is on the car. You just got to put benzene pole. Everybody says that. So I was always conscious of my lack of vocabulary. The standardized tests I used to take said that I was not very good at vocabulary. Didn't have very many words. I hated those tests, and that stuck with me for a really long time. And now I have a lot more words in my vocabulary, and now I'm starting to lose them. And I really think that is a bummer. That's not fair. That's not fair at my age. So my father left Denmark when he was 15. He didn't get to go to school anymore after that. He was his family moved to Canada, and he was apprenticed as a cement finisher. And that's the work he did his whole life. And my mother left Denmark when she was 21. They met in Canada. She got to finish school, but her first job in Canada was plucking feathers off of dead chickens. She later went to a community college and became a preschool teacher. I got to go to school as long as I wished. And though I felt different a lot, I wasn't treated by others as if I was from a different group. Finances were tight growing up. I never worried that there wouldn't be food on the table, but I did worry that we'd lose our house at times. But I got to go to college for as long as I wished. And I was paying off student loans into my 40s, but I didn't have to rely on my parents to fund an education they couldn't afford. I got to go to school in California. I got to go to our public schools. I got to go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and do my teaching credential. And then later, a little while later, I got to go to UCLA and do my graduate work and with my doctorate. I got to become a teacher. And well, here I am. And there's two things I want to say about my career. The first is that I couldn't handle being a teacher of children very well. And here's why. The whole reason I wanted to become a teacher was that I love children so much. And I used to care for children, babysit when I was 13. It was the thing that I loved to do. And I loved to watch them. I loved to be with them. I loved to care for them. But when I was their teacher, and when they were in pain or hurt, or there was something terrible that I knew had happened to them, I couldn't handle it. It was too hard. I wanted to take them home. I can't take every child home. In fact, when I had my own children, it got even worse. And one thing my former husband used to do, which I thought was really remarkably sweet, was those days we used to get the newspaper delivered to the house. Remember the days there was paper? And he would read the paper before leaving for work in the morning. And whenever there was a story about a child that had been harmed, he'd slip those pages out of the paper, tuck it under his coat, and walk out the door. And so I have the utmost respect and awe and gratitude for all of you who teach children every day. And it is through you that I still get to serve children, because you have taught me a lot about being wonderful educators for children, being who they need. And I can be here at this table, and I could be at my place at UC Santa Barbara, and I could facilitate you all to do that great work. So I could still participate in helping children through you. And for that, I have tremendous gratitude. Second thing I have a lot of gratitude for is learning to teach from all of you. Learning to teach from the teacher educators that I worked with and co-taught with for years, learning to teach from the new teachers who came into my classroom, learning to teach from the teachers whose classrooms I went into and just got to be with their children. And I made plenty of mistakes as a teacher, as we all do. And I was thinking about this as I was flying up here. One of my very first classes that I taught at UCSB after I got my doctorate was a class on cognitive development, because that was my area of work and research. And I had 2 young children at the time. I think my son was 4 or 5, something like that. Anyway, I was talking about how children's conceptual development of scientific concepts. And I was fascinated with how children thought about the earth and what around earth meant. And so I was videoing him and asking him these questions and asking him to draw me an earth, the earth, and show me where the people lived. And as he was doing his drawing, my other child woke up from her nap and was crying. So I had to leave him. I left the camera rolling, came back. He had drawn his picture. I asked him questions about what it was. He had drawn a circle and the person in the middle. And after asking him questions, I realized what he had drawn was a disc. And the person lived on top of the round disc. And that was very typical. So I'm like, this is what people are saying. And I'm going to show this to my students. So I showed the video to my students without watching it before I showed it to them. We're watching him draw. And then he proceeded to pick his nose for a really long time as he was drawing. No, I don't think I've ever told him that, actually. Yeah, now he can watch. So those very first students at UCSB and all of the students after them have helped me grow to where I am, to all of the ways that I've been able to do our work here. And I am so grateful for my students, and I am so grateful for my colleagues at UC Santa Barbara. The teacher education program at UC Santa Barbara has given me so much. It is, I would walk in there every day like I know a lot of you teachers do, and say, I'm the luckiest person to have this job and to get to be here. And I get to raise my children while I'm doing this. I worked a lot, I worked every night after they went to bed, but I got to do this and in collaboration with spectacular people. And that's the same here. 15 years on this commission, boy, did I learn a lot about how to do my own work, how to, do the best things for kids. And here we really have a lot of power to do the right things for kids. I think all of you who sit here understand that. And how important that is, and what an awesome thing we get to do. I want all children to have what I had in public school here. I want it to be even better. And I want them to have teachers like all of you sitting here, like Terry. And I know that you all are going to continue to do that. This commission is awesome. Where this commission is right now, our staff, I've said this many times, I don't have to say it again, but Mary and I talk about it a lot. She's so grateful for all of you. This is a really strong commission. It's a really strong one. And I'm so glad that you all are carrying on this work. And just remember, I'm not leaving the planet. And I would love to continue to learn what you all are doing and support you in any way I can in my retirement. So thank you. Those are my comments. And now I'm going to turn it over to our executive director, Mary.
I think we're going to rearrange the order of the agenda starting in January, so I get to go before the chair because you leave me speechless every single time. And good morning, everyone, commissioners, members of our community of practice, educators who join us here and online. This is our last meeting of the year, and it has been an amazing year. 15 years on the commission is, I mean, that's a record. I think that's longer than any commissioner, I think, has ever been present at this table. And what a time that you've been here.
Just ask Kaiju, she'll know.
Yeah, yeah, they do. I do, because she's got a map. I know she's probably got a graph somewhere that would show us what it all looks like. Tina and Chair Sloan, I want to thank you on behalf of the staff who are in the room and not in the room. We have benefited tremendously from your leadership here and your voice here at the table. During your UC representation time, you brought the voice of that system to the table with the other system leaders who were here. And that has always been such a critical backdrop for us in the work that we do, the analysis that we do for the commission, the testing and the kicking of the tires of policy ideas and options is a key part of what we have to do in order to help the commission do what it needs to do. And you've just been such a steady, thoughtful partner in this work. And I think I'm really only willing to let you become emeritus of some kind, because I can't imagine doing this without you. But I'm so grateful in my role and in the roles that my team plays here. You just have been a tremendous colleague and leader, and we applaud you. We have been very busy, as you all know, and the fruits of that labor are on your agenda. But one of the great things that's been happening the last couple of years has been growth and investment in the commission and its work and new work that we get to do. So I'd like to introduce two new members of the Professional Services Division grants team. Of the 29 FTE that we were granted to hire this year, we've filled 25 positions. That's, and so here are the latest two from the Professional Services Division. And I'm not sure if they're in the room or on Zoom. One is in the room. Okay, the person who's in the room, whose name I'm about to, one of these people is you, and you will know when the appropriate time is to stand, and that will be helpful to all of us. So first, I'd like to introduce Sarah Barwani. She's participating via Zoom. There's Sarah. Hello, good morning, welcome. For the past 9 years, Sarah Barwani has been a school counselor in the Bay Area. During this time, she has worked at both the junior high and high school levels. She began her school counseling career at Castro Valley High School, and then she spent the next 8 years in Fremont Unified School District. Most recently, Sarah was a school counselor and the counseling department chair at American High School in Fremont. In her roles, Sarah has consistently worked to increase access to mental health services for students and families, create brave and safe spaces for students, and ultimately build equitable and inclusive school communities. Sarah comes to the commission with extensive knowledge of the K-12 public education and of the school counseling profession, and she is incredibly excited to join the Professional Services Division team. We are particularly glad to welcome you to this team as we this year have the opportunity to expand our residency program to school counselors. So we are, it's very timely to have you here with us to help us understand the ins and outs of how that role can best be supported through a residency pathway. So welcome Sarah Barwani to the team. Secondly, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Morgado, who is in the room. Hello, Stephanie, welcome. Stephanie, or Steph Morgado, began teaching physics and chemistry in Vallejo and continued developing as a teacher leader, wearing multiple hats: science department head, AVID coordinator, distance learning coordinator, math and science instructional coach, to name just a few. She was a 5-year Teacher Leader Fellow through UC Berkeley's Math for America program and has been adjunct faculty at several local teacher credentialing programs with an emphasis in science and math candidates. From teacher leadership, she took an opportunity to transition to administration as an executive director to help a charter organization launch 2 expansion school sites centered around personalized learning and college dual enrollment. From administration, she began consulting to support schools in the larger Bay Area. Steph joins the CTC team as a consultant with teaching, administrative, and faculty experiences to support the expanding professional services division. Welcome to the team, Steph. We're glad to have you here. The final announcement is late breaking. It's not late breaking, just late arriving. And so we wanted to just give you a quick touch point on how excited we are about the new PK3 early childhood credential. The staff is working hard to simultaneously provide information to the field while also developing a process for programs to submit proposals to offer the program. Not only is this an entirely new credential type, it also includes 3 new standards areas: literacy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and early mathematics. Staff is getting webinars scheduled for early 2023 to provide information on each of the new standards areas and also provide information to the field on the types of new evidence that will be required with program submissions. Program submissions are not reviewed by the staff. The system of accreditation that we implement here at the Commission is a peer review system. New program proposals are reviewed by teams of people from the field with appropriate expertise. For the new PK3 credential programs, we will need individuals with early childhood or child development expertise. If you're an approved IHE or LEA and plan to submit a PK3 credential proposal, please be looking to your faculty for early childhood experts that can be part of the review process. Information on how these early childhood colleagues can be part of the process will be forthcoming, so please watch for items in the weekly PSDE news. And thank you for being part of the process. And thank you to the team for raising this to this moment. We have worked so incredibly hard, commissioners, as you well know, over the last 16 months to bring this credential, to midwife it into existence as a credential. And the real meat of the matter now is the ways in which our teacher preparation infrastructure will pick that up and run with it and bring programs into being. We hope that we see some early submitters this spring, and we also hope, and we can't really get that work done unless we have these experts ready to engage in the review. This is a very exciting time for implementation of this new work. So thank you for allowing me to just highlight that as one of the many things that are underway here at the Commission. And back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Do any commissioners have items to report? Commissioner Davis?
Good morning. I'm normally not the leader in the giving reports, but I will start. I had the distinct pleasure of last month of meeting with Miss Terry Jackson, actually, and the CDE in conjunction with Stanford and CTA and NEA for a grant we received for our BIPOC cohorts for candidates pursuing national board certification. And we got to brag a lot at this particular presentation. And a couple of the points I wanted to share with the Commission and our audience about this. My co-facilitators, Silver White and Agnes Zapata, we've worked really hard over the past 5 years just to get this ball rolling. We've had a lot of false starts, so to speak, where we've gotten some funding for BIPOC cohort groups in the past that didn't quite get out the ground because the funding stream was not a continuous one. And finally, we have steady funding through a couple of grants, and we have tripled the demand and capacity for the desire of people of color in pursuit of national board certification. So there were lots of need reasons to celebrate at this joint meeting. And the one other highlight that I wanted to point out is that a lot of folks don't quite understand how our program has been working. Our program, we are the model, we are the standard for how we provide support for all of the other candidates at Stanford University. And now we've expanded our program to UCLA. So again, our program is the standard for how we're providing support to all of the other candidates at UCLA. So they start with the BIPOC groups first, they look at our agendas, they look at our work, and then they use that to help support other candidates. And our program is working. We have a very high percentage of candidates that are certifying, and we'll know on Saturday of this week, or really Saturday is this week. So I want to say congratulations and good luck to everyone who is looking for results for their national board certificates there. But I will have more statistical information at our next meeting. And I'm going to give a little more information later after item 1C, I believe it is. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that work, Commissioner Davis. Other commissioners have items to report. Commissioner Francois.
Thank you. I have 4 items to report, but before I do that, I want to also extend my thank you and my congratulations to Commissioner Jackson. I will keep this brief and just say that you are a ray of light on this commission, and I don't know that I've met anyone in your capacity who has such a gentle spirit, but also such fire and passion. And I would say that I'd follow you anywhere, but I'm not quite ready for retirement just yet. So thank you so much for all that you've done for the students of California and all of the educators that serve them. Your commitment matters, and we see that. And then I have to turn over to Chair Sloan. Tina, my Yoda. I don't know if everyone on the commission knows, but I have known Chair Sloan since I was a baby teacher educator at UCLA, brand new, idealistic, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to change the world. And I met my match when I met Chair Sloan. She has literally taken me under her wings and taught me everything that I know about high-quality teacher preparation. I would not be sitting at this table. I probably would not be in this field had it not been for you. You are a shining example to the UC deans and directors, and I think I speak for all of them, that the work we do and our charge is around research and innovation. That's what the UC is about in teacher preparation. And you are the embodiment of transformative, interdisciplinary research and innovation in the service of equity and high quality teacher education. I aspire to do the kind of work you've been able to do. You have changed the direction of the UCs almost single-handedly, Tina. You will not brag about yourself, but I want everyone to know before you leave this table who you are and who you will continue to be with us. Thank you for influencing and impacting my life so deeply, but also on behalf of the University of California, we're gonna make you proud, all right? Keep watching, keep watching. Thank you, Tina. Whew, look at that, I got through that with not a single tear. And look, Marquita noticed, I know you were there with your Kleenex ready to hand it to me. Mm-hmm. I do have 4 reports though, or updates. The first is from the University of California Office of the President. We would like for you to know that the Board of Regents recently appointed Catherine S. Newman. She is a nationally renowned academic leader and scholar as our UC Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, effective January 2023. She will serve as the University of California's Chief Academic Officer and will help the university's efforts to advance academic opportunity and inclusive excellence across our 10 campuses. And she's actually replacing a great provost, veteran professor and administrator Michael T. Brown, who's going to be stepping down at the end of 2022 after serving 5 years. And for those of you who know the UC system, you should know that serving 5 years in that role is quite an achievement in and of itself, let alone during these difficult times. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the 21st Century California School Leadership Academy, 21 CSLA. I've reported on their work before. I'm going to give a shout out to Marty Martinez, who's in the audience today, who's one of the leaders in that effort. The CDE is investing in a new training, the first of its kind in the state, for school leaders and administrators who will implement California's groundbreaking UTK policy. Headquartered at UC Berkeley, the 21 CSLA school will support California's implementation of universal transition to kindergarten, which you all know is one of Governor Newsom's top priorities for education. And we've just secured Dr. Chris Thomas, who's a seasoned higher education professional with teaching leadership and early ed experience, who's going to lead the 21 CSLA effort. If you have not checked out the resources and activity of 21 CSLA on the website, please do so. It's really groundbreaking, and our goal is to ensure transitional kindergarten for all 4-year-olds by 2026. I'm taking my time. The third update, the Environmental and Climate Change Literacy Project. One of the things I'm really excited about right now in the state are these collaborations across segments. And 2 of those are the Environmental and Climate Change Literacy Project, as well as the UC Collaborative for Neurodiversity. And so I'm going to report on both of those things. The Environmental and Climate Change Literacy Project, which we call ECLIPSE. That's right, Marquita? Is a multi-system initiative organized by the UC and CSU systems in collaboration with 10 strands and key partners to advance pre-K through 12 climate and environmental literacy, justice, and action. They're going to do that work by building educator capacity through research and evaluation, teacher preparation, and community partnerships to educate, activate, and empower all California pre-K-12 public school students to become literate in climate and environmental justice issues in order to produce better equipped voters, professionals, and environmental stewards. Kelly Lee, who's at the University of California, Irvine, and is also one of the science project directors at the University of California, Irvine, is leading that effort. And she has been taking time over the last few months to meet with every single partner across the UC and the CSUs to create a common agenda, create working groups, and ignite and initiate the hub for this work. So there's going to be some great things to come on that important endeavor. And my last update is on the California School Statewide Transformational Assistance Center. I'm hoping that, okay, this is not UCLA. I can't tell people what to do. Hold that thought. First of all, we call the California Community School Statewide Transformational Assistance Center the STAC. It held its first study tour of the regional transformational assistance centers, I think it was last week at the UCLA Community School. And the visit really highlighted the importance of robust, culturally affirming classroom instruction and the role of teacher preparation program in supporting community schooling. They are in the process of creating growth charts that detail important activities and benchmarks for the Community Schools Initiative, and they'll serve as a tool to gauge our growth and continuous improvement. For those of you who are interested in learning more about the Community Schools Initiative, I invite you to check out issue 3 of the Journal on Community Schooling. It really lifts up scholarships at the 2 UCLA community schools. The third issue focused on community schooling in Durham, North Carolina. And the next 2 issues are going to focus on community schools grantees in California. And my last report is a quick one, because I know Shireen will probably talk about this a little bit more about the UC CSU Collaborative. We have just hired a new executive director of that work. Her name is Allison Towery, and she is the former chief academic officer of the Los Angeles Unified School District. She comes with incredible experience, not only in curriculum and curriculum development, but really system change and system design. So the work of the UC CSU Collaborative is in very good hands. And that concludes my report.
Wow. I was really,
Going on at the end of the year.
yeah, a lot going on with you too, Miss UC teacher, educator, and representative of the system at our table. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad that when you said you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed teacher, educator, and then you met me, I was expecting it, and she took me down. She ruined it. All right, thank you. Commissioners, other items to report. Commissioner Harvey?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anna Marie. I firstly do want to echo, I'm fairly new to the commission, but just a big warm thank you to Terry Jackson and congratulations on your upcoming retirement. And Chair Sloan, your leadership has truly been impactful over the years. So I wish we had more overlap opportunity, but wish you all the best and thank you for all of your efforts. Anna Marie spoke a little bit about the 2 joint UC-CSU centers, and I will come back to you with more updates on our neurodiversity collaborative that is really working on enhancing services for all of our students who are at risk in our public schools, who need supports in different ways, which is pretty, it's a huge effort. One of their priorities is working with students with dyslexia right now, and they're developing modules that will align with the standards in our literacy standards. So we will be sharing more as those modules come live, and will be a huge resource for teacher preparation. I wanted to share just one update around our CSU Center for the Transformation of Educator Preparation that we call CTEP, which is a Gates Foundation funded grant that's working currently with 10 of our CSU campuses to find localized solutions for enhancing our outreach, recruitment, preparation, and retention of BIPOP candidates into teaching careers. One of the elements of our CTEP grant is developing an equity and excellence certificate program, which has been in place, has been developed by CSU faculty, and has been adopted within the CSU by CSU faculty. It's a 3-part asynchronous online program, and we're now opening it up to our school district partners as well, starting in the spring semester. So we really wanted to get the word out to folk who would be interested in pursuing this equity and excellence certificate, that it will be available. For more information, they can go to our CTEP website. That's ctepp.calstate.edu/e-certificate. So again, if you were to look for CTEP at calstate.edu, it's our Equity and Excellence Certificate program. Thank you.
That sounds incredible. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown.
We won't be the same without you, either one of you. And we will try to take the work that you've started here and built for us, the foundation, and we'll try to take it further in your name. And we will be looking for your expertise because that's the work that we do. We really do work together so that we can be the change we want to see in the world. I'm from the community colleges, and so I'm kind of down in the trenches here, and I just wanted to acknowledge the work that the commission has done and what it means for all of us in the community colleges and in the early childhood education field to be included, invited into the process. I have had meetings with our local CSU that are so exciting to look at the collaboration between the Graduate School of Education and the bachelor's program in child development and the early childhood and elementary certificate and associate degrees at the community colleges. It is more than exciting. And I want to acknowledge the two colleagues that I've been working with here in the CSU system to be so supportive of inviting the community colleges in. It's really going to be exciting. They've always loved our students, and it's been informal, and now it will be formalized. In addition, thank you, Anna Marie, for talking about the universal preschool UPK work, and I'm happy to let you know that I'm a participant in that. So again, the community colleges and the commission are actively involved in the work of this focus, as well as with the Starfish Institute that's looking to figure out ways to create networks among all 4 of the institutions of higher education. And I'm looking at my colleagues over here that are on the staff that can help us make that happen. We could really transform the way we prepare our teachers with what's going to happen in P3. So I just wanted to say that. And secondly, this semester, I got to place student teachers back in classrooms, and I got to be with them. So you'll excuse me if I'm mostly wearing my mask, because I have 25 students that I keep going to visit. And it's so exciting. I just have to tell you, as someone who's a teacher in teacher preparation, I know we've done a lot of things and we'll continue to do it online, but there is no substitute for the interpersonal interaction. And instead of having them do a PowerPoint about some of the things that they're doing, I actually had them build, this is a little corny, I had them build a documentation board that last night they all brought, and we did an open house where all of them had been collaborating with each other, talking on Zoom and talking in the seminars, but it was up there, and they were so afraid that they were going to have to do public speaking. So I set it up so there were small groups and they were just talking with each other. And I had the little clapping things, the little clapping hands for the people that were the guests, that when they finished listening and asking questions, they could do a little clap. By the end, I thought it'd be about a 20-minute thing. By the end of an hour, they were starting to talk to each other in big groups and say, come on over and look at what I did over here and give me some ideas about how I could do it next. It was great. And those are the people that are going to teach our children in the state of California. So I just wanted to be enthusiastic about that, because it's really nice to be in classrooms where teachers are teaching children and students. And there's no substitute. Yeah, great. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. That's the other thing that just made my job the best job in the world. I mean, being around people who want to become teachers, they're the best people in the world. All right, Commissioner White-Smith.
Good morning, colleagues. Kimberly White-Smith, and I represent AICCU, which is the independent not-for-profit colleges and universities. And before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the University of San Diego, which is the traditional and the unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. And I just want to pay respect to the citizens of the Kumeyaay Nation, both past and present, and their continuing relationship with their ancestral lands. And also, we recognize their tremendous contributions to our region, and we thank them for their stewardship. As we have just recently left November, which we recognize as American Indian Heritage Month, just want to kind of echo the sentiment of my colleagues and say that we recognize that the Commission is doing wonderful things to really make it possible for all of our teachers to engage in work that is authentic, that is accurate historically, and that supports all of us in knowing our history, because when we know better, we do better as a state and as a nation. So I want to convey my gratitude from my colleagues at AICCU. I also represent two aspects of AICCU, both the deans and the organizations, as well as the faculty that make up the private independent not-for-profits. And so I just want to recognize Robin Duncan is our incoming Dean Chair from Cal Baptist. She's replacing Michelle Young from Loyola Marymount University, who's done a tremendous job this past year in leading us and guiding us. And I know that Robin's going to do a great work in the year moving forward. And then I also want to acknowledge that Allison Smith represents the AICCU Ed faculty and has been doing a tremendous job in helping me kind of organize meetings to really get a sense of, though we're very different organizations, and as I said before, very diverse, 75% of us represent emerging Hispanic serving institutions or already are Hispanic serving institutions. We also credential 50% of the teachers for the state. So we really have made a collaborative effort to come together to talk about many of our challenges and opportunities and to share across our organization. So kudos to all of the leaders who have been in place to help us really do that. One other kind of pride point that I want to share is that with regards to collaboration across sectors, my university, University of San Diego, represents a partnership for a residency program with San Diego State University to support San Diego Unified School District in developing a pathway for more minoritized teachers into the field through the residency program. So again, made possible by the efforts of the CTC. Lastly, another pride point, my university has been able to work with the San Diego Foundation to secure a grant that's over $1.5 million to support the development of something that we're calling the Black Ingenious Initiative. In the San Diego region, we've noted in the data that all of our subgroups in our area have been making some advances educationally, except for one, our African American community. And so in order to really kind of pool our resources and work together to see how we can really support the Black community in making those gains, this initiative was created to support and work with our schools and recruit students from 6th grade to 12th grade, much like the NAI initiative from USC, the Neighborhood Academic Initiative that USC has. And have Saturday academies, STEAM summer academies, tutoring, mentoring, and support, mental health services for families, as well as tuition assistance once they get into 12th grade and matriculate into either a community college or a four-year institution. So again, just a representation of what can be done when we collaborate. From this, we also hope to develop a Center for Neurodiversity to help our local teachers engage in the practices that our students are receiving in our Black Ingenious Initiative, because we hope that the focus on the problem for educational attainment for this particular subsector of our community will help all of our different minoritized communities gain great academic rewards. So high tides lift all boats. And that is the work that we're currently doing. And before I exit, I just want to thank Commissioner Jackson and Chair Sloan for being such great examples of advocates and really great champions for the work that we're doing at the CTC. I'm relatively new also to the commission, and I just really have appreciated the thoughtfulness and the way that your advocacy has come across in different ways. And sometimes when I'm thinking about hard problems, I'll say to myself, well, how would Tina say this to someone so that they could thoroughly understand what the issue is and what a potential solution could be? So thank you so much for being an example to me. And I wish you both the best.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitesmith, for that really wonderful report about all the work going on in AICU. And thank you. All right. Other commissioners' reports? Commissioner Jackson.
So I'm going to try to get through this. I just thank all of you for your kind words and your appreciation. I treasure all of you. I've learned from all of you. I learned long ago in my leadership capacity that I'm a thinker. So if any of you say something that I'm like, it's already in my head, I don't need to repeat it. I'm like, it was said. So, that quiet kind of leadership, but also the passion. Oh, this profession is the best profession. Educators are the best. I tell anyone that will listen to me, even if they want to run and think that it's not true, I let them know this is the best profession and it's the only profession I want to be in. And I am so grateful to have the career that I've had. 34 years in the classroom, 3.5 years with the Department of Education. I want to thank Superintendent Thurman for putting his trust in me to represent him when he announced at the CTA State Council meeting in January of 2019 that I was going to be his designee. The room erupted because they knew, like I knew, to have a practitioner representing the superintendent about public instruction in California was huge. And he was just he's been very, very sincere about the fact that, hey, you have the knowledge, go forth and participate and represent. And so I just want to give him a huge thank you. And when I went to work for the Department of Education, all of the programs that you're talking about, National Board, 21 CSLA, anything that has to do with culturally sustaining pedagogies, any of that work comes out of the Teacher and Leader Policy Office at the California Department of Ed. Hardworking colleagues led by our manager, Kristen Cruz Allen. And they also, with all the work that they've done, they also support me when I come here to the commission. So they take all of the agenda items, they analyze them, they see what connections there are to the superintendent's initiative or to CDE's work, and they do that work prior to every meeting. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to my colleagues at Teacher and Leader Policy, which the manager and one colleague is here for the National Board agenda item that's coming next. And I just want to say, I so appreciate Tina, and I'm going to say Tina, I'm not going to say Chair Sloan, I'm going to be personal. You have led this body so well, and I have so appreciated being here when you have been chair and And I'm so honored that we're kind of dancing off together. We didn't plan it, but that's where it is. And I'm just so appreciative of you and how, I look forward to your remarks at the beginning of every meeting. I'm like, holding on and listening. And I just want to say that the strength and the passion really comes from, I took it with, CTA. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to the California Teachers Association. I was this shy student all the way through. My high school friends, when we go to reunions, they cannot believe I'm doing all of this work. They're like, what? You were so shy. You couldn't even speak in front of like 2 people, much less, thousands. And I want to give the greatest state affiliate union of NEA, California Teachers Association, a great shout out, because all of the advocacy that you see from me and all of the strength as a leader and all of that was very much cultivated with that union. And that union are the educators of California. That's what people don't realize. They try to say, oh, CTA. Well, CTA composes of all of the educators in California, most of them, the majority of them. And so remember that before you start to say your words about CTA, because their heart is really with the students of California. But I really have to, the main reason that I'm, retiring is my mom. My mom, it's just the 2 of us now. And she had all 3 of us. I'm the oldest. By the time she was 20. She was a teenage mom. She's a young mom, relatively speaking, for this time in life. A lot of my friends have lost their parents. And they've all said, once they've lost their parents, your mom is so young still. Take the time and spend as much time with her as possible. And that is the main reason I have the great capability of retiring now, because of CalSTRS, yay. and that's what I want to do, is make sure that we spend as much time and create as many memories as we've done up to this point, and just create more. And so I just want to thank all of you for your heartfelt words and everything. I greatly appreciate them. And I'm so glad that there's CTA colleagues in the room to be here. And, and CTA colleagues that become commissioners, like, others in the past and myself. And so thank you so much. And I don't like to take up much time, because I know we have an agenda, but thank you for giving me the time to just say I've appreciated being a part of this body, and definitely appreciate being a part of the best profession on the planet.
Terry, it's an honor to be going off into the sunset with you. Other commissioners, Commissioner Heredia.
I know we're running short on time, but Terry, I was in your position and did the same thing that you did, and I'm so grateful. I walked away from what I was doing to spend the time with my mom. No regrets. And I tried to make lots of memories by taking her places that she had never been to and making her eat foods that she'd never had, and drinks that she never tried before. So there's lots to do. And I just wish you all the best. So I represent the school board members of California, which there are 1,000 of us. And 5,000. sorry, 5,000. We're the largest elected body we're the largest body of elected officials in the state of California. And so we just had our annual conference last week, where we had a record-breaking number of attendees, which was 4,000 come and spend time with us. And it was kind of bittersweet for me because it was the end of my 17-month term as president of the California School Board Association, although I have one more year on the executive board as the immediate past president. So when we talk about teacher shortage, when we talk about UPK and all of every topic we whatever we discuss here, those topics were represented in workshops last week, and people are just hungry. They're hungry for information. They're hungry, for ways in which to resolve the issues of teacher shortage, of trying to find people with the right credentials, and employee shortages, not just teacher, but the employees shortages as well. And so I left that conference feeling very hopeful because the energy for those, I was there 5 days, that, was very high in terms of just trying to go back and do what's the best thing for kids. And there was a speaker that we had, and many of you probably have read her book. It's called Educated, and it's by Tara Westover. And as you will recall, she was the young woman who grew up on the mountain in Idaho in a Mormon community and was never allowed to go to school. And then fast forward, and now she is a senior research fellow at Harvard Kennedy School. But when she applied to go to college, she had no math skills. Her math skills were minimal. Her literacy skills were minimal. And her story was so compelling. I actually got the book for Christmas and from my son, and I just did nothing until I finished reading that whole book, because it's the most compelling story you've ever read. And to see her in person and spend time with her, got to spend time with her in the green room. She's just this very humble, very, very kind person who just wants to tell her story. And from her story, which I didn't expect, is that the thing that kept her going to school, or kept her wanting to go to school, just in about the 3 years that she was able to even go to school, she wanted to learn to sing. And when she was in classes where she could learn to sing, because one of her brothers was a musician, she felt such a sense of connectedness to people, and it was her way of being integrated with people. But there was some moments there when everybody was like on the same page and they were trying to create something, and so she had to sing "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" together for and had this kind of experiences, this energy that you get with being with people, sort of like on the commission. We're all here, we're on the topic, we all understand, and we're trying to row the boat to the solution, and get there. But her story was so compelling in the sense that it reminded me of the need for the arts in schools and how we got distracted from that need. And that's what kept her going to school. That's what kept her feeling connected, because she didn't have that in her community. She was not allowed to play outside, the confines of the property where she lived, other than with her siblings. And so it was so moving. And she talked about the fact that she's not an educator, but what she could tell us was what it was like to be educated. And so, and that's her purpose of speaking around this country. So that was one of the many highlights. But I think more importantly is that there's a group of people who, and I think sadly there was a large group of people there, but anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 school board members lost their seats. And they lost their seats in, many of you know this, they lost their seats in races where people are trying to change the narrative about education, and not always for the positive. And so there's a real critical, importance of watching who your elected officials are, who's representing the kids in your community, because we want to make sure that the people at the table are there for the right reason. And so that was another takeaway. But more importantly, I left feeling I was on a high, excited, people wanting to go back, wanting to do the best they can, and it's wanting to have the skills and the knowledge of being able to bring around about real change in their community. So it was a great time. I look forward to next year's annual conference. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heredia. I read the book too. It's amazing. Other commissioners, items to report. Commissioner Cardenas.
as well as child development, right, and family services. So I was talking to some of our students in the education pathway, and I'd asked them, why do you want to go into education? Like, because we want to change and we want to help. We see how the adults may be struggling and we want to make a difference. And so I see their energy and I see how much hope they bring all of us and how they want to be in this field. Even though they see us struggling, they want to be in this field to help. And so they actually lit a little bit more of a fire with myself. And I started talking to our community college folks, our Cal State folks in our area, and trying to build this partnership where we can just really build this pipeline, a true pipeline, so our students can get the help they need as early as 7th, 8th, 9th grade, right? Build that true pipeline so they can go into credential programs, so they can continue to follow this path. And I always tell them, I want you all to be our bosses. I want you to be on the boards. I want you to make the decisions, be at the table. And they're willing. They just need mentors. They need people to help them. So I just wanted to share, with our school district. Yesterday, we have about 136 school counselors in a district of 37,000 students. And we hired someone yesterday, and she was a student that I've known since she was in high school, since she graduated. I worked with her mother, and she went into the military, came back to be a school counselor in her community. So that's what we continue to see, right? Our students want to come back. We just have to give them those opportunities. I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for continuing to open doors and know that there's hope that our young folks want to come into this field. So thank you.
Well done, Commissioner Cardenas. Go, go, go. I'd invite Terry Jackson into the next one. Get her. She'll inspire. Other commissioners, items to report. All right. Do liaisons have items to report? Good.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Commissioners and members of the public. I hope I can make it through my report. I've been sitting here using my scarf to wipe away my tears. I'm gonna miss you. Okay, so my report is half state board education updates and half appreciation. So it's like a little bit of a mix, appreciation and recognitions. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge it's been very emotional this morning, and getting to the liaison part is just like the pinnacle of emotions. Like, good luck. Tina Sloan's leadership as, oh, thank you. Scarf is resting now. Tina Sloan's leadership on as commission chair, which she has executed with aplomb and a cool most of us only dream about. Tina's impact on the state's teacher workforce is immeasurable, from her work with teacher candidates to founding and directing the California Teacher Education Research and Improvement Network, which began to tackle teacher data before it was as chic as it is today. Tina, it's been an honor to work under your leadership, and I'm thankful for who you are and all your contributions to our work. And I think if there was a typo in your name and the I would be an O, be Tone Sloan, which rhymes. But I always think about how you set a tone. You said your reports as you start the meeting are always an empathetic and very intelligent tone. And I always look forward to your reports. And I'm really going to miss, hearing you set our tone. So you can go back to being Tina now. And Terry, I will miss you so much. I have to tell you, from the first day that I met you and every time that I see you, I feel like my heart jumps on a skateboard and says, wee, because that's the feeling that emanates from you. And I imagine how much your students loved having you in class, just because that's who you are. And Commissioner Francois said it so well, right? The soul and the passion. Thank you so much for all your contributions to public education. And I remember as a CTA member, when you were appointed to that position, how excited I was too, and excited to meet you for the first time. So when, we met here, and as someone who's incredibly attached to her mother, I applaud your decision, because the time that we spend with the people that we love are memories that I think we do take with us. And I also want to mention that our state board president, Linda Darling Hammond, also known as LDH, was just awarded the Yidan Prize for Education Research, which Ed Week calls arguably the world's most prestigious education award. The foundation credited Linda's scholarship with revealing the diverse ways children learn and how best to teach them, and feeding those insights into robust educator development programs and transform schools. Linda is also Tina's predecessor, for those of you who weren't here before, and we all have been so fortunate to have such impressive CTC chairs. Switching gears, and also truly impressive, were the high school students that presented to the state board last month at our meeting. The Student Advisory Board on Education, which aims to represent nearly 5.9 million students in California, made presentations and fielded questions from the board members on topics such as school safety, student engagement, teacher misconduct, political literacy, and peer counseling. Their perspective was refreshing and made plain the critical role of students in ensuring they have the educational opportunities they deserve. In addition to hearing from the students, the state board also heard from Dr. Mark Ghali of the Department of Health and Human Services on the exciting work of California with the Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. Dr. Ghali's team has been working with CDE's Community Schools Initiative, and they, similar to here, are also trying to build a strong workforce, in their case to provide much needed mental health supports to California kids. And actually, I think it's Dr. Ghali but I call my sister-in-law Golly, and so I just went in there. But I think it's Dr. Galley. Today, I look forward to hearing about the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards Certification Incentive Program being administered by the CBE. I am personally going through my maintenance of certification, as I was telling Commissioner De La Torre, and having gone through renewal, and now I'm a MOC. It's been about 20 years that I've been board certified. And as I think a lot of us believe and know, National Board Certification is the gold standard of teacher professional development and support of students for their opportunities and outcomes. So thank you so much for the opportunity to comment, and I look forward to a great meeting.
Thank you, Ida. Any other liaisons have something to report? Commissioner Davis. Thank you.
I am the new liaison between the CTC and the Committee on Accreditation. So I have a very thorough report. Before I get to that thorough report, I'm going to say that this might be one of the last times that we get this public exchange between the two of us at a meeting. And I'd be remiss if I didn't get to say that I feel like I met you the first time I met you during our interview. I knew you. And it was just you made this impression, you and Mary Sandy both, but I remember Tina, especially the unusual spelling of your name, because I'm divorced from a Danish person, so I understand the spellings of things. It's just amazing to think that, again, that you're just going to be so missed, and you just have made an amazing impact. And I wanted to let you know that. And Terry Jackson, this isn't the last time. Soul food later. Soul food later. All right. So the Committee on Accreditation. So we had some staff reports at the Committee on Accreditation, and they talked about the $125 million in capacity grants, where about half of that funding has been spent. With the wonderful leadership of Ms. Amy Rising, we appreciate all of that leadership there at the meeting, and also our chairperson here, who is in the audience. We talked about the P2-3 credential and the desire to add program standards on diversity and inclusion to all credentials possibly in the future. Talked about how the RICA would possibly be replaced with TPAs in the future as well. And then I got a list of program approvals that were agendized. Program approvals includes Fresno State. The PPS intern pathway was approved by the committee. Academy of Art College is seeking to add an intern credential pathway to its existing single subject art credential pathway. It wasn't approved yet, but it will be revisited in January 2023 because there was, I believe, a typographical error or some sort of error there that prevented that from happening at the last meeting. Initial program approval for Gateway High School and their first quarterly report for La Sierra University. One of the stipulations by the visiting team required quarterly reports needing to address the 16 stipulations in the site team's report. The team will revisit 417 through 18, 2023. Institution described their restructuring, and stipulation number 16 was removed. Third quarterly report for USC was presented with 8 stipulations. Approved recommendations to provide technical assistance and review for those quarterly reports were presented. Robert Hope International University presented their quarterly report of 4 stipulations. The decision was made to accept those reports. Then those reports were required of the visiting committee. Palos Verdes Unified School District presented their third quarterly report. that report was approved, and there were 3 stipulations indicated there too. Kern County Office of Ed reported and no action was taken because it was labeled in error as an information item rather than an action item, so that will be taken up at the next meeting. Santa Barbara Unified Schools presented their final quarterly report, excuse me, and their status was approved. And let's see, CSU Monterey Bay presented 4 stipulations from their site visit from October 2021. They, the committee approved removing the stipulations and update status to accreditation. Sacramento City Unified School District presented to remove stipulation number 9 of the 9 stipulations that were required of them. Las Virgenes Unified School District presented their response to their last stipulation, which is number 3, to remove all stipulations and move forward with accreditation with no stipulations. No action was taken because, again, it was labeled in error as an information item rather than an action item, so that will be taken up at the next meeting. I've got 3 more of these. I promise, I'm almost done. Adler Graduate School of Education spoke about stage 5 of the institutional approval process. The decision was made to recommend approval to the CTC. Action to adopt the initial program precondition changes that the CTC voted on. Updates to the accreditation handbook. The document was reviewed chapter by chapter, by the way. Committee also discussed the Council for Accreditation Education Preparation, or CAPE, agreement that needs to be renewed every 7 years. And finally, the committee presented its annual report of the Committee of Accreditation. No action was taken, and thank you very much. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis, for serving as our liaison and for that very detailed report, giving us information. All right, any other liaisons have things to report? Student Liaison Tran.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I know Chair Sloan and Commissioner Jackson, I mean, it's such a transition of moments, but I can already tell from how everyone is speaking of you, me coming here, I'm like, this is good soil. You have set really, really good soil for everything to grow. So I'm so happy to be here and to like grow with y'all. I want to make a few more thank yous. I want to thank Haiju and Rhonda. Y'all have really, really welcomed me and making sure that I'm prepared to come here. I've also like to thank just the staff that keeps this building clean, those who have built this building. There's so much invisible labor that goes on so that we can be here. So I want to recognize that. I want to thank the people that were in my interview committee. I know Commissioner Gross, I believe, and Commissioner White-Smith, you were there, and then Commissioner Cardenas, you were also there. So thank you for having me and interviewing me. Also want to thank Commissioner Davis. I know I mentioned Commissioner Davis in my essay that y'all read. So it was so nice to chat with you, Commissioner Davis, and I look forward to meeting all of you. I thought I would take some time to share a little bit more about my background, what informs of my perspective and how I got here. I didn't think I would end up here, but I feel like everyone thinks they didn't think they would end up here. So again, I am in the Berkeley Teacher Education Program. I student teach at Berkeley High for chemistry, but I grew up in Eastside San Jose. I graduated from Evergreen Valley High School in 2013, and then I went to UCSD and got my degree in environmental chemistry. My initial career was going to be in either in corporate or in research, so I interned at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and did structural biology of proteins needed to make biofuel. So again, from environmental chemistry point of view. And then I got hired at Genentech to do as a research associate and did preclinical drug metabolism for metabolomics. So more of corporate, but then I knew I wanted to get into teaching. And so in 2019, I applied for several teacher education programs and was planning to actually go to UCLA's teacher education program, but it was 2020. So I interviewed in February and then pandemic hit. So my family convinced me to wait. And so I waited. But by then, Genentech was like, we were planning for you to leave. So they laid me off. And I instead got a job at UCSF to support preclinical brain tumor imaging instead. So I was like, oh, okay, I can't be a teacher right now. I guess I'll do brain tumor imaging research instead. So I did that for a few years and just reapplied every year and waited and waited and waited. And now teacher education programs are in person. Student teachers are teaching classrooms again. And so I waited and now I'm here. So it was well worth the wait. In that period when I was not employed, I took a transformative justice course by Mia Mingus, and that's what introduced me. I had been in community organizing for a bit ever since I came back to the Bay from UCSD and did community organizing work with grassroots orgs for Vietnamese progressive orgs. So an org called Viet Unity and also a queer trans Viet org called Cutie Viet Cafe. But it was this course of Mia Mingus that really transformed me and really made me passionate about alternative justice frameworks. So that's a little bit about my story. And that's what kind of led me to me writing about what I wrote in my essay about restorative justice and being connected with restorative justice resources and trying to implement that in our schools. I'd really like to thank the instructors at the Berkeley Teacher Education Program. It's a 15-month program, so it's quite short, but it is very rigorous and very critical, and I'm learning so much. I really love to thank Sonal Patel, who is my instructor for institutional change in public education. So she has taught our cohort about the policy end of education. So looking at the agenda for today of like, oh, okay, ed code, things like that. Like I am literate in what is happening on the policy side because of her instruction. She is working under the superintendent for the San Leandro Unified School District. So she has done a lot of work on teaching teachers and staff and students and community members about policy, about how to write school board resolutions on the community level. So allowing for civilians to have literacy on policy. And it's so important that teachers and students and community members are engaged civilians to know and be literate in policy. So it's because of her and her work. This should be the standard, I believe. So it's such an honor to learn from her and to be engaged in a board like this. So I also want to thank Nevis Wetzel de Cedillo. She is teaching restorative justice, like intro restorative justice trainings in the beginning of January. So really establishing that pipeline for student teachers and prospective educators to be literate in restorative justice circle holding and implementing restorative justice values in our classrooms. So I'm really happy to say that that is being implemented, that we are creating that pipeline. She's also my arts integration teacher, so that definitely informs me of how I can use my assets as a dancer, as a performer, so that students can use their assets as artists, creatives, children, to use their assets in their learning and with their community as well. And then Kyle Beckham, which is my curriculum development and practitioner-based researcher, action research instructor. This program does a lot of work in developing teacher leaders, so doing our own research in our sites, and then also pushing us to develop our own curriculum, and that's what leads me to really take risks and try something new in terms of arts integration and STEAM education. So with this semester, we were tasked to building a unit on whatever we wanted, just like a sandbox for us to play with. And we're not pressured to implement this curriculum at all, but to really build something that is there for the future when we can do the kinds of education that we want to do in the future. And so my unit is on using dance and freestyle dance as a medium to learn about chemistry kinetics, so about like activation energy and how reaction rates happen, and then using chemistry as inspirational fodder for dance. So what can chemistry teach us about dance? And what can dance teach us about chemistry? So these are really exciting things, and I dream that programs like BTEP are average. I know that as a prospective teacher, I've already done amazing things, and I dream of being average. So I am really inspired to be in a room of people where the average person seems incredible. And so I'm really looking forward to learning from you all. I wanted to speak on the UC strikes. So as we know, the academic workers are on strike right now, and that has definitely affected student teachers and teacher education programs on the ground right now. My program isn't as impacted. There's not as many academic researchers that are on strike, but we feel really compelled to be in solidarity with academic workers. And so we choose, a lot of us have chosen not to cross the picket lines, and that has, definitely impacted our education within our program. And it definitely affects downstream to the students that we teach at our placements as well. But our instructors have been so responsive to the situation. They've moved classes to be online, but for students who want to honor the picket line digitally as well, they've added asynchronous options. They've moved classes to outside the picket line. They've really been creative in the solutions on how to meet student teacher needs and also the students that we teach. They've shifted classes to be teach-ins from teachers who did union strikes in OUSD. So really shifting from what we can learn in the political situation. So I've been really grateful to having such responsive instructors and leaders that really model how we can show up as educators to be responsive to issues that affect our students and the communities that we serve as well. Again, I'm really looking forward to being here and adding my voice into this table. I know that I feel like educators, we're recovering people pleasers and honestly relapsing people pleasers. So I wanna press myself to step up and share my voice. I want to keep it real with y'all as much as I can. So I want to be more curious than fearful to step into this table and share my voice, but also be more curious than fearful to meet all of you and to build relationships and connections with all of you. So thank you for having me. I feel very welcome. That ends my report.
Thank you, Student Liaison Tran. I think everyone would agree that you just raised the level of incredibleness in this room. Thank you. Thanks. Any other liaison items to report? Okay. It is clearly the end of the year, and we have been doing a lot this year, all of you. So we will now take a break. Let's come back at 10 after 11, please. Okay, welcome back. So I neglected to close the general session before we move to. Thank you, educator prepper. I told you I'm losing words. Good thing I'm going now, because if I can't say educator preparation committee, that's not good. I'll now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into, no, that's not what we're doing. I now recess the general session and move to the educator preparation committee. Commissioner Martinez, will you please convene the committee?
I shall, but before I convene, I will also give my gratitude and appreciation to Terry and Tina, the two T's. Terry, I love your description as a thinker. When you said that, I was like, oh, that's so perfect. But I always just see you as a servant leader. And when you left the classroom for Superintendent Thurman, that was just personified. What a servant leader you were, because I know that was a really hard decision for you. So thank you for your service and for leaving the classroom for CDEs. That was a tough one. And Tina, I think that Haiti stole what I was going to say about you, but your comments are always just so perfect, so relevant to the day, and so empathetic and so intellectual. And I always think, gosh, how long does she have to think about that? Like, because they're like seriously deep and seriously relevant and caring and intellectual altogether. So thank you for the leadership after Linda left us. Thank you, but love your thoughts. So with those parting appreciations to join with everyone else's, I will call the Educator Preparation Committee to order. The December 22 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee, we have 8 agenda items. We need to get to 3 items today. I emphasize need, at least 2 before lunch, if not 3, and then that leaves us 5 for tomorrow. So we have some information items this morning, and we have 1 action item, but we're going to start with our information item, which is 2A, the annual report of the Committee on Accreditation for 2021-22. This item is being presented by Martin Martinez and Robert Fraley, COA co-chairs, and Cheryl Hickey and Aaron Sullivan. It's an information item. Ms. Hickey, will you please join us, and thank you, the chairs, for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. This is the annual report on accreditation from your appointed 12-member committee on accreditation, and it fulfills the reporting requirement for Education Code Section 44373B5. We're really pleased to be joined today by our the two co-chairs of the Committee on Accreditation, Dr. Martinez from the Sacramento County Office of Education and Dr. Frelly from Chapman University. The COA always has co-chairs, one from K-12 and one from higher education, working in partnership. So we're very thrilled that they can be here today. I do want to, before we start, thank Chair Sloan for her impact on the accreditation system and her support for the system over the years. Her handprints are all over this robust system, from TPEs to performance assessment to thinking about how we can kind of target certain activities around the accreditation system. So particular thank you for that. We really appreciate it. So the Commission's accreditation system is responsible for ensuring that the Commission approved programs and institutions are operating programs in alignment with the Commission's adopted preconditions, standards, and that their candidates are meeting the adopted of the accreditation universe in California, because it's quite vast. So slide 1 that we're referring to here, just wanted to give you a sense of the size and scope. There are 254 institutions that have been approved by the Commission to date, and that are currently operating at least one or more operation program. You can see the largest number in this slide. It's a little hard to see, but local education agencies, schools, county offices, and districts at 168, and many of them offer induction programs, but there are some that offer a wide variety of programs as well, followed by private and independent institutions, CSU, UC, and there is one other that is the Association of California School Administrators, who grandfathered in because they do administrative preparation. On the next slide, you can see right now, as of today, there are 942 Commission-approved programs. which is a staggering number of programs, I think, in the state. We tried to just chunk it for you so you can kind of see where those are. The preliminary teaching and intern programs across the board, those are the largest number at 331, followed by induction, both either teaching or admin, 235 of those. Services credentials, which are your preliminary admin programs, as well as your PPS credential programs, 190 of those. And then a wide variety of added authorizations and specialists, 156 of those. And then we pulled out designated subjects because it is sort of unique, and there's 30 of those. So you can see 942, and trying to make sure that all of those programs are in alignment with the standards and the adopted TPEs and performance expectations is quite a big challenge. The next slide just gives you a sense. It goes into detail in the report on the accreditation cycle. It's just a reminder that these programs are working on accreditation every single year. This is not a one-time, one-shot kind of thing, but they are actually involved all throughout the 7-year accreditation cycle. Every year, they are submitting data to our annual data system. Improvements. We are doing survey data, as well as they have their own efforts around survey data to get an understanding from employers, as well as their candidates and their completers. In the first and the fourth year, preconditions are due, where they respond. So we make sure that there's not drift with some of how some statutes are being implemented. Year 5 is a big year for programs. They are submitting their program review documentation and common standards review. And just a reminder that what we have moved to in this current system is not a bunch of narrative where they're telling us how they do something, but showing us how. So providing us with course syllabi, showing us the actual candidate handbooks, those kinds of things. So that's a really important thing. We've tried to keep it to provide us evidence of things that you are already really using. Don't create things for the accreditation system. And then year 6, of course, is the culmination with an accreditation site visit with peers. And then 7th year is the follow-up. So again, a lot of the detail is in the report, but we just wanted to give you a sense of that. And then, of course, the next slide is just an example of our accreditation cycle. We are not all the way through a 7-year cycle since we've adopted this system. We're about, I think, in year 6, or we probably have had 5 or 6 years, I think, through. And so that just gives you a sense of the system. And those blank boxes are really, they're still doing annual accreditation data review and submissions. So, and the next slide, I'm going to toss it to Erin. Oh, one more thing. So we wanted to make sure that you all knew that we try to really have as much transparency as we possibly can. The meetings of the COA are streamed just like these are. Anybody is welcome to attend and join, either virtually or in person. And we put all of the accreditation reports and letters that go confirming what the COA's action is. We put that on our website. So you can look up any institution, you can read the report from the team, and you can see the letter with the actual actions taken by the COA. So we wanted to make sure that you were all aware that that is all available online.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right. See if I can multitask here. It's been a while since I've done a PowerPoint in front of you. So as your appointed accreditation committee, the COA is responsible for the oversight and enforcement of the Commission's accreditation system. This includes making decisions on the continuing accreditation of educator preparation institutions and their programs, approving new programs submitted by eligible institutions, and determining the comparability of national or alternative program standards with California standards of educator preparation. To do this with fidelity, the COA members must stay informed of Commission activities and decisions that affect educator preparation in California and maintain alignment with Commission priorities. In 2021-22, this meant, among other things, and I just pulled a few things out of the report, monitoring the status of the various program and candidate flexibilities that were put in place by both the Commission and the Governor and the Legislature, evaluating and improving crosswalks with national accrediting bodies, monitoring the transition of education specialist and pupil personnel services programs to the Commission's newly adopted standards, staying up to date and being oriented to new data visualizations and dashboards as we continue to build out and improve the accreditation data dashboards, which are used, by the way, by our accreditation site visit teams, as well as being available to the public and to the institutions. In 2021-22, these modifications included adding Cali PA data dashboards. So that was nice, and building out some additional visualizations. And thank you to Fifi Lau for her work on those. The COA also was considering areas for improvement, such as refinements to stage 5 of the initial institutional approval process, which were first presented to the COA for their consideration and then brought to the Commission for approval, with the co-chairs co-presenting on that item to the Commission, but also hearing a report each year from the Administrator of Accreditation, with analysis of site visits based on information gathered in surveys provided to institutions, site visit teams, and Commission consultants after each site visit. So just another opportunity for them to hear about how the system is working and to consider any modifications that need to be made to make sure the system is working well. And of course, as the Commission updates its accreditation framework, the COA subsequently evaluates its own procedures manual to assure alignment, which it did in 21-22. Speaking of the framework, by the way, the Commission adopted updates to its accreditation framework at its June 2020 meeting. So subsequently, the COA adopted updates to its procedures manual to align with Commission expectations, particularly in this case, as they align to the IIA process. That was the biggest change to the procedures manual. And this is where you get out of order. Okay. So the COA has within the framework 5 purposes for accreditation that they are mindful of that were adopted by the Commission. And these 5 purposes are in it's not stage 1, the section 1 of the COA report, pardon me, talk about losing words. In section 1 of the report, we walk through each of these 5 purposes and talk about what the COA does and how staff engages the COA in these 5 purposes. Okay, so the first one, ensuring accountability to the public and the profession. In order to remain accountable to the public and the profession, the COA, as the Commission does, holds their meetings in public. The public is welcome to attend, the public is welcome to comment. The agendas are posted for them in advance as they are with the Commission. All of their decisions are made in public with regard to accreditation. And the reports from those site visits that reflect their decisions are posted on our public website, as Cheryl mentioned. So anybody can at any time go to our website and find out what the current accreditation status is for any institution and read the full report from the site visit to get a full understanding of what that decision was. Also, I'm going to go back. Sorry. Also, as part of the purpose of ensuring program quality, staff provides to the COA regular updates during their public meetings to keep them abreast of important activities and communications that we are making to the field. These include debriefing the COA following any major conferences in which staff participates, such as CCAC, NASDAQ, Cal Council, any of those. We always bring an update and a debrief back to the COA to make sure that they're informed. We update the COA regularly regarding staff activities that are part of the site visit process, informing the COA about any trends that may arise from conversations during regularly scheduled program-specific office hours and subject-specific email boxes. And of course, we keep the COA informed of any upcoming trainings for new members of the Board of Institutional Review, which are the peer reviewers who are assigned to site visits and support the work of accreditation in really a variety of ways besides just site visits. Apologies. I know, I've gotten everything all out of order. This is what happens when you write a script, which is not the best way to do this. Okay, so purpose number 2, ensuring program quality. So in its effort to ensure program quality, the COA reviewed and made decisions on 40 site visits this last year, or I'm sorry, in 2021-22. 33 of those visits were regular site visits as part of year 5. 4 of them were provisional site visits, which are the site visits that we hold in stage 5 for institutions in the IIA process. And 3 of them were revisits, and we'll talk a little bit more about why we may have revisits, but typically it's because there were stipulations from the site visit that that caused the COA to call for a revisit after a year to ensure that the institution was bringing itself up to commission standards. And then, of course, there is ongoing monitoring of institutions that receive any stipulations. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, what that monitoring looks like. Excuse me. It's just amazing that these got out of order. Oh, they're front to back. That's why. Like I took the time to write really nice things and be really concise here. Okay, ensuring program quality. So in the 2021 year, isn't that funny? So I apologize. So along with ensuring program quality, staff engages in a lot of technical assistance. Some of this was implemented during COVID because we didn't have the ability to go and be with institutions. And while the COA isn't directly involved in this technical assistance, again, staff brings information back to the COA that we hear while providing this technical assistance, talk to them about what we're doing in order to get their feedback about anything that we could be doing differently or better. So I talked about the debrief of presentations. In addition, staff does a year-out pre-visit, monthly check-ins, and a 2-month out pre-visit with every institution before its site visit. So a lot of work to really support these institutions in getting ready for their site visits. We hold office hours for a variety of subject specific, so multiple single subject office hours, ed specialist, induction, wherever we see that we need to have some regular check-ins for institutions with staff. So those are often weekly or bi-weekly at a minimum. I mentioned the training for the Board of Institutional Review. We'll talk a little bit more about what that gets for us, but in a nutshell, we have to have folks fully trained in order to put them on these site visits. And so we have a training process for that. We discuss that with the COA so that they can know who we're bringing on and how we're training them. And those individuals become really, really important volunteers that work within this peer review process. And of course, we do have subject-specific email addresses for institutions to get assistance anytime they need it. All right, ensuring adherence to standards. To this end, the COA is responsible for determining, that's out of order. Give me just 1 second. I apologize. Okay. So the COA is responsible for determining which new programs may be approved to operate, and they do this through both the IIA process and the IPR process. Again, IIA, initial institutional approval, and IPR is initial program review. The COA also ensures that all institutions are submitting evidence for preconditions in years 1 and 4, as Cheryl mentioned, program review and common standards review in year 5, annual data to the accreditation data system in years 1 through 7. And some of the numbers here on this slide give you a sense of how many institutions, how many preconditions, how many opportunities for support and for review of evidence that is received from these institutions throughout the cycle. Ensuring evidence is reviewed by peers, another priority for the Commission. As mentioned above, trained members of the BIR are used for a variety of activities related to the accreditation process, not just for site visits. And BIR training is carried out multiple times a year to ensure that we continue to train up and have enough reviewers and aren't just tapping the same people over and over. In 2021-22, we trained 61 new BIR members, which is fantastic. Fostering program improvement. To this end, the COA is apprised of any institutions or programs that are out of compliance with the Commission's accreditation system. Each year, staff provides the COA with feedback about a site visit process that comes from site visit team members, institutions, and consultants. And partnership agreements with national accrediting bodies are also reviewed on a regular basis to ensure that standards and processes are appropriately aligned. Just some procedural modifications, and we do talk about these towards the end of section 1 in your report. So the COA did make a request as part of looking for some improvements in IIA that when they are making decisions to approve a program to an institution in stage 4 of the IIA process, so this is after stage 3, when the commission has given provisional approval to an institution to sort of go forth. Their next step is to bring a program before the COA to get approval of that specific program or programs to operate. The COA did ask, after doing this for a couple of years, if they could, instead of just seeing the evidence that is provided for stage 4, which is of course response to the program standards and preconditions, could they also see everything that the commission has also previously reviewed, so that they have a full picture in front of them of who this institution is, how they're going to operate, what the unit is going to do to support this program when the COA does say, okay, go ahead and go start admitting candidates and operate your program. So that was a new modification that we made for the COA. And then, of course, as I mentioned already, the COA did review some modifications in stage 5 related to the kinds of recommendations that they make to the commission. And we brought an item to the commission for their approval of those modifications to stage 5, and the co-chairs joined us for that presentation. All right, and at this point, I will turn this over to the co-chairs. Thank you.
I thought the light was on. You think I know how to do this by now. And in doing that, there's an incredible staff here at the commission that works behind the scenes and in front of the scenes every so often. That really drives us. It gives us enough information, and they go above and beyond the work that is really required to ensure that we have everything that we need to support our efforts in doing the review process. I also want to mention that the BIR members that Aaron and Cheryl have spoken of, it's a great amount of work from a lot of volunteers from the educational system who are helping to support our students in California. So it's never just the COA or one team effort, it's everybody. So I just want to make sure that we get a shout out to them. The objective of the COA and the staff is really to strengthen and streamline the process. This last year we've been working on to have more immediate guidance to the institutions, to try to reduce the redundancy and duplicated efforts within the commission and our efforts here, but also to improve communication through clarity and efficiency. And what we've heard thus far from institutions coming through the process is that the program has been working. We're always revising it, always taking instruction and guidance, but we seem to be on the right track of being sure that the process is much more streamlined. On slide 16 is the accreditation decisions for 21-22, and then that's fine, you can move down to 17, that's fine. So on 17, one thing to note is that of the 22 institutions with accreditation, there were 7th-year reports required for 6 of them, and that's one of the options that we have in the COA that come before us, and we have a guide, a chart that we use to guide our discussions and ultimately the decision. So everybody on the committee has these, and we use this to help make render decisions and support. On page 26, you'll see there are 15 institutions that met all common and program standards. And then looking at page 27, it speaks of the two standards that there are the most frequent findings. That's Common Standard 1, dealing with institutional infrastructure, and then Common Standard 4, which is dealing with the continuous improvement. Next slide, please. Program standards that have the most frequent findings you also find listed in the report on page 29 and 30. And we tried to look through this and try to analyze if there is many specific trends that are occurring. And it's really difficult to determine a trend. There's such a variety of programs that are being offered across the state that we really haven't been able to see any necessarily anything specific on the program standards. And then in general, this talks about the data, does not suggest any across the board challenges for any particular standard or particular area. We'll continue to monitor that to ensure that we're providing the most effective process for them. With regards to induction, the standard related to the selecting and training of mentors seem to be the most frequent, but like others, there's a larger number of programs with here than any of the programs that are being reviewed. So it's difficult, again, to really assess and see if it's a problem with the process or just the larger numbers, which yield a larger result. And then on slide 19, talk about provisional site visits. There are 4 additional site visits that took place at institutions within the provisional status. And that's just given the opportunity for the institution to have people come on board and to review and offer their input. We'll talk a little bit later on about the comparison between online and in-person reviews and what that has yielded. So anyways, there are COA considered accreditation for a total of 7 provisional institutions. That included some that were extended from previous years. But if you look on page 34 of the report, you'll notice that all have now been granted full approval. And I think that is because of the support that the commission offers and all the staff and the COA members. I will say this, the membership of the COA, every time I go to a meeting, I learn so much from them. Like I hear you all talking about supporting one another. Same process there. They're all truly vested in what we are doing together as a team to provide great education experiences for K-12 students. Ultimately, that's who we reach, right? But also through the upper education, higher ed institutions. So they are insightful. There's not a meeting that goes by that we don't end up asking questions and try to strive to get more and more information. I was talking to David before this today. He kind of pointed that out as well. So it's a really great group of people that we work with, and it's just been an honor to be with them and also serve as their co-chair. And now I'll turn it over to my co-chair, Dr. Martinez.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley. Good morning, everyone. As we talk about this process and of accountability, really, and it made me think of when student liaison, Tran, when you talked about your experience. That's the reason we do this work, is to ensure high quality programs across the system. And all of you know that part of it for you. So it is important. We take it very seriously, but it's also what I really appreciate about the process is it's about continuous improvement. It's not a got you system. I've had the opportunity to live in the old system and the new streamlined system. And one of the things we hear from institutions almost every time, even if they've had to go through maybe stipulations or ongoing follow-up, just how supportive the process was and how it really truly supported improved outcomes for students. And that's the bottom line. And so we know that it is stressful as an institution. We're coming up on a site visit at Sac County office in spring. It's always good to balance that it is stressful, but it's very, what I'm finding myself, but also what we hear is that it's about continuous improvement and really meeting the needs of our educators today. And so thank you for what you brought to, because it kind of underscored why we're here and what we do. And so slide 20 talks about stipulations and some of those issues that happen. The VIR team has experienced educators that are in that specific credentialing area or across those that a program has. And so when they have concerns that go beyond some minor things, we'll often as a committee will give them further work to do in terms of follow-up to make sure that those issues are addressed. And so, but it's really about follow-up, but also support. So beyond accountability, that the staff here is amazing and how they support and help them meet those goals and achieve the standards that we expect. Most often we use quarterly reports that they come back to the commission quarterly, and all of them you'll see that we were able to remove all the stipulations from 21 and 22 over that course of that follow-up year. Could go ahead and move to slide 21. Slide 21 really just follows up on this. It shows you institutions that had major stipulations or more, and even though some of them had quite a bit of work to do in terms of providing evidence or strengthening areas that where there were gaps, they all did it through the support and the process of primarily from the staff here, but also from the committee and also from feedback they got at their actual site visits. Slide 22. And so you'll see also, I'm always amazed at all that the staff does here because, and just that when we think about new institutions coming to you, all the work that it takes to get here and then happens. But this year we approved 8 new programs. The existing commission approved institution 21 of those, and then also 5 subject matter programs, and so a lot. We know what each institution goes through to bring that to us and to get to that final stages. So a lot was accomplished there. Slide 23, and then you'll see here just how it's broken down above the approved, provisional, and then the authorizations. You'll see an uptick in bilingual authorizations this year, to me, which is really exciting. But across the board, when you look at all the various credentialing types and the variation, when we talked about finding trends and things, it is hard to find trends because there's just so many areas that we impact and oversee. We as a commission, and then as a committee in terms of their program approval. Final slide for me. And then other things that we've done are the actions. So you'll see that we had 14 programs that went inactive during this last year. 18 withdrew credentialing programs. 1 was reactivated. 1 institution closed as a program sponsor, and then 100 and we monitored the transition to the new education specialist program. So this is a big lift this year. So for 140 programs at 72 institutions. And again, I want to give a shout out to the staff here who does most of that heavy lifting. So thank you for that. I'll turn it back over to Cheryl.
Sure, thank you. And part 3 of the item, we just wanted to highlight our current work plan, what we are currently doing at the moment. This slide here is just, I want to say routine accreditation. I don't mean that to be a slight at all because this is our bread and butter. This is what we have to do. And that is really important. So this is what we have on our plate for the regular accreditation priorities. So preconditions review for 54 institutions, program reviews for the 33 institutions that will be visited next year. Same with common standards. Site visits are being conducted. We started in the fall. We continue now at a very big pace in the spring. Revisits and that kind of thing. So we also are doing technical assistance and training, both our BIR members. We have about 500 Board of Institutional Review members, and I really want to make sure to say thank you to all of them. During the pandemic, we thought we'd lose a lot of people who couldn't participate, but educators stepped up and they were able to allow us to continue to move forward during this tough time. And the next couple of slides are sort of the non-routine accreditation things. We did complete the handbook, which was a huge undertaking, and brought all those procedures up to date. We did enter into a new partnership with the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation, CAPE, which is a national accrediting body for the for educator preparation. There are 2 in the nation. We are rethinking the site visit structure going forward. How could we not, take advantage of what we've learned during the pandemic and what worked and what maybe was more challenging, and trying to think about site visits going forward. We are definitely monitoring how things are going in the first year of implementation for both the PPS credential areas as well as Ed Specialist. We are dealing with lingering pandemic issues. As you can imagine, there are still a number of candidates out there that need to complete and programs that are serving those candidates. So we're trying to give as much support as we can. And then we're continuing to refine the annual data system and the completer surveys and other ways of getting data. The next slide, obviously new priorities. One of our major new priorities is getting those PK3 credentials up and running. As Executive Director Sandy mentioned before, that is a huge priority. We are working really hard to get our processes and our, what kind of evidence do we need? What are we looking for? We need to recruit reviewers. Please, hopefully you have people that you can send forward to do that, and getting those programs up and running, those that want to be operating by next fall. There's a lot of work to do there. There's also the SB 488 implementation. That is the literacy standard. And there's a lot of work that we need to do there in terms of technical assistance and working with the field to understand what's in that new standard, and then figuring out how to review that, providing guidance for the teams and that kind of thing. So those are two big priorities. And I just want to mention one last priority. We started this as part of the strengthening and streamlining accountability system, which is to really have a better sense of having systematic processes in place for looking at statewide data, institutional level data on a statewide basis. And we were working hard on that in 2019 when, of course, then the pandemic hit, and we really had to put that kind of on the back burner. But, to our leadership's credit, trying to get more research positions and data positions in the building that can help the accreditation system kind of mine that data to look at where are maybe some of the problem areas, where do we need to go target some of the support in and around, whether it's literacy instruction or whether it's English learners, whatever the need might be for that particular institution. So we want to bring that back to the front burner and really have those conversations with the Committee on Accreditation, with staff, and with the field. So that is our presentation. We're happy to answer questions.
Well, I wanted to say one last thing, is just also to thank Commissioner Davis for being our liaison. It's been great having you with us. So.
Thank you. Thank all of you very much. We'll now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card if you're here, or clicking on the raise hand icon if you're participating by Zoom, or pressing *9 if you're participating by phone. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Just allowing a moment.
Okay.
We have no public comments.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the extra time in case there were some that came up. I'm now going to close the public comment period for this item. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Redia.
Just have two quick questions, and one of them is your comment about the inactive programs. Is there a trend that you're seeing regarding the inactive programs? I mean, I'm just curious, are there certain programs that we're looking at across institutions of higher ed that are finding themselves not able to offer their program?
Turn that over to you guys.
I'm sorry.
I did see certain types of credentials. I think that.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know someone was mentioned to me, for example, like there's a reading credential that some universities are not able, they're just not able to get enough candidates for that program. So, but
I would just, while Cheryl's looking for the specific data for you, just as a point of clarification, inactive programs and withdrawn programs are different. When an institution makes a program inactive or requests it to go in, it still stays on their books and we still do some monitoring. And that's an advantage because should they decide, okay, now we have maybe the infrastructure to support, or we've got more candidate interest, it's a lot easier for them to reactivate it. If they withdraw a program, it's removed. I mean, we have a record of it, but it's removed from any list of potential programs they could offer. And should they choose then to want to start offering that program again, they have to submit a whole brand new program proposal. So it can be a little bit different, but I'll turn that over to Cheryl now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So it's on page 35 and 36 of the report. This year is kind of unique. It's kind of a little bit of a unicorn because 9 of the programs that are entering inactive status of the 14 were from two universities that are closing. So Mills University, which has been around forever in California, is being merged with Northeastern. They are going to seek accreditation. They're working with our initial institutional approval staff to seek, but because it's a new institution, they need to go through the process. The other one is Antioch University. We believe they're closing. We've been working with them. They are sort of in, right now we have a meeting scheduled with them in a couple of weeks to find out what the status is. But basically they put their programs on hold while the institutional level folks are trying to figure out the direction of that in California. So.
I have a question. I think it was for the chairs. I wasn't sure I understood the point on the PowerPoint. It was like something to note. And it was about induction and the teachers, the master teachers, the mentors. I wasn't sure if I understood what the point was.
Yeah, the comment was related to what the consistency were as far as where the standards that were not being met within those two programs.
That again?
Yeah, the comment was related to the fact that both those institutions had similarity as far as what programs or what standards were not being addressed.
Okay, and it was specifically around the mentor teachers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Grenoshire.
I have a comment and then a question. As a recovering dean, I want to thank the staff and the committee chair and co-chair for your work and for your emphasis on moving beyond compliance to continuous improvement. It's really clear that you've made great efforts, so thank you. I'm curious, and if you don't have this information now, if you could get it to us, how many institutions are CAPE accredited and how many institutions are AQUEP? I'm just curious about that.
That is a good question. I don't know right off the top of my head, but it is a much smaller number of CAPE accredited than were previously NCATE accredited. I believe it's 3 or 4. It used to be, I think, 20 something. More institutions we are hearing are looking at AQUIP accreditation. And we have 2 of those. 2, I think, have gone through the whole process. And I believe we have another one next year. So that's a ballpark, but I can get you the exact numbers.
In addition to our accreditation? Okay.
Yes. So basically we've entered into agreements with both entities to try to streamline it and try to be as efficient as we can for the institution that is seeking both state accreditation as well as national accreditation. National accreditation is optional in California. It's not required. State accreditation is required. And institutions decide that on their own. In the case of CAPE, it's a joint visit, so the teams work very closely together. In the case of AQUIP, it's sort of 2 teams working side by side. So they're slightly different in how we approach it, but our team leads talk all the time together on an institution, and the teams talk all the time, share information, share evidence, and have dialogue around the standards. But there are 2 different reports in both cases.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the left side of the table. I'm going to start with Commissioner Puffery and then go to Commissioner Brown.
Just to respond to the question that was posed, on the AQUEP website, it shows 3 California institutions that have national AQUEP accreditation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown, and then Commissioner Other Brown. Did you also have your question? Okay.
The other Commissioner Brown.
We were just talking about who's the other Brown, because we think we're both the other Browns, but one of the Browns. You mentioned that a huge priority is this P3 credential. You aren't surprised that I'm asking about that, and the need for reviewers. And I wondered how those reviewers are being selected or recruited. And you're looking at the number of. I'm still learning the system, BIR. And so if you could just talk a little bit about that and offering my interest in that as well from the community college setup.
So I can talk to that a little bit, and I will say it's not fully fleshed out yet, but we have been batting around the idea of asking institutions when they put forward a proposal for this new credential to also provide us with 1 or 2 names of really childhood folks, because we imagine, again, conceptually, that the program review for this process, because it's always a team of at least 2 people. So we imagine right now the program review process for these new credentials will involve somebody with multiple subject expertise and somebody with early childhood expertise. But we don't have early childhood expertise yet in our BIR, or not that we've tapped, because we haven't had that kind of a credential. So there may be some folks out there that are familiar with our system that have that expertise, but we're going to ask institutions to please tap some people and put their names forward.
I just think it's really important, as we don't have this, but we're going to have it, is really thinking about that expertise at the bachelor's degree level, at the graduate school of ed level, but also at the community college level. Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. This is an information item. Do others have questions? Chair Sloan?
First, an acknowledgement of the letter that the two of you wrote. That was a lovely letter, and it was a really good introduction to help anybody reading the report to understand what the conditions were for the year. So thank you for that. It was very thoughtful. And I have a question regarding what so many of us are seeing as one of the most important things about this system is helping our programs continually improve. And on page 49, you talk a bit about the data, the ADS system and the data work that you all are doing, and some of the things that you want to try to do related to the ADS system, that's the accreditation data system, in 2022-23. And one of them is, I just had a question about actually each of the 3 bullet points, because I think they're all great. The second one, I might just focus on the review and revision of question construction or language used in questions that are unclear for particular pathways to improve the validity of the data. So, you all are going to be, it says questions will be reviewed for clarity and applicability, particularly for induction intern programs. I was just wondering if you all had developed the process yet for reviewing that. Like, how are you going to do that? Because the validity of data across programs, everybody being able to interpret what a pathway is critically important.
We haven't, but we certainly want to involve those who are responding to the annual data system. So bringing in people from the induction community to say, where are the challenges in responding? We get questions all the time, and particularly this past year, because COVID was the thing that is that person a program completer or is that person not a completer? So do I count them here? So I think it's really important to hear where they are reading what we have, how we phrase something and how they're interpreting that, and is that our intent? So the plan is to bring folks together to talk through the questions and to just see if there are issues in wanting to adjust how we ask for the data. We know that there's been questions and a little bit of confusion around clinical practice questions. What's counted and what's not counted, those kinds of things. So really just taking time. We've had it up and running for a few years now, and taking some time to really revisit the questions very specifically outside of staff with other folks. But that hopefully we'll be able to get to early in the spring.
Okay, great. I had a question about the performance assessment data on the data dashboards. And when you're talking about putting them on the data dashboards, the performance assessment data is only going to be visible to the programs themselves, correct? At this point?
Currently, that's accurate. That we gather all of that data through ADS. Some of it's made available to the public. All of it is made available to the institutions.
Right.
And right now, candidate performance on the performance assessments is not a public dashboard.
Right. And what level of detail is that data, the performance assessment data?
We can get down to the nitty. So what we get from reporting, we can get pretty detailed. I think we keep it at a little bit of a higher level in what we put on the dashboards. So we can see the same level of detail that the institutions can see. I think we keep it at we don't post it by the rubric level. No, it's at level of the cycle. Amy's not here.
Yeah, I know. Amy, looking for Amy because we've had conversations with Amy about the data, because our data person, Fifi Lau, who's amazing, and the dashboard visualizations, we've had these discussions where she'll put something up and Amy, who knows deeply performance assessment, said, you can't quite make those connections that way. So we've had a lot of conversations about the level of data that you put there and how it might be misinterpreted or interpreted. So that is a work in progress, I would say, in terms of where, what level should be allowed, you should be viewable to everybody, and what should be reported. So yeah, it's a continuous story.
Yeah. Well, my final thing would just be to say that we've entertained over time what is our role in supporting programs in the state to get better and people to learn and get better and use data and get better. And you all have learned a lot about using data for this process. And I wonder if in future you might consider how can the commission facilitate people's programs use of the data, like learning how to use it, practices, sharing practice across institutions that have been extremely helpful. Oh yeah, and Cheryl and Aaron, you guys have this work inside and out, and you've just been awesome over the years, and we owe so much to the two of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, just to follow up, because Fifi is in the back of the room here, because she'll be presenting momentarily.
Yes, and
the
Fifi,
TPA data
thank you.
is available at the rubric level.
Okay.
It is available at the rubric level.
Okay, thank you. One other question? Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Not a question, but
Or
a comment. I just a commendation and thank you so much. My first time visiting the Committee of Accreditations. This is one of the warmest bodies of folks that we have here at the commission. I mean, I've met everybody that I've met, and but as far as committees go, I have not attended any committee meetings per se, and this committee is just outstanding. And I introduced myself by telling them that I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to accreditation, because this is by far one of the foremost memories of me doing some administrative work as a high school student when I was in our accreditation committee, our WASC accreditation committee. And I just wanted to know kind of what that whole process was like. So they did a really good job of giving me an introduction to that. And there's one thing that I want everyone here to know about these wonderful people, Cheryl Hickey especially, and our co-chairs as leaders. We had an institution call in on Zoom, and there was some miscommunications in how they interpreted what was communicated to them by the commission. And there were some tears shed. And the way we were able to get this person and the institution back on track by supporting them was a powerful moment. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, education, and I said this before, is a blood sport. And so sometimes the accreditation process is a watershed. There are a lot of watershed moments, and there was one there, but I think there was some growth on that institution's part, and they're going to come back in the next session and hopefully get their program approved. But it was just a moment where these folks were so supportive and took moments to just help this person calm down and get back focused on the agenda item and their presentation, that I've never seen anything like that. And, those kinds of things could be disregarded and just kind of glossed over, and but the compassion that was shown in that moment spoke multitudes about the committee, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for serving as our liaison as well to the committee. This is an information action item, and not seeing any more questions. No actions needed, so we'll go ahead and close and thank our wonderful speakers and for all the work that you do to ensure quality in our institutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move to 2C. Item 2C is the proposed adoption of the passing score standard for the revised California subject examinations for teachers in art and music. So CSET for art, music, or art, and CSET for music. This item is being presented by Mike Taylor. This is an action item. Mr. Taylor, you ready to begin?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
It's nice to see everyone again. I'm here today to talk to you about setting a minimum passing standard for the new CSET Art and CSET Music exams. You'll recall that these are exams we've been developing as part of the new series of art and based CSETs, because in January 2019, the state board adopted new California art standards for public schools. And when they passed those art standards, we began working with our examinations contractor to start updating subject matter requirements and CSET exams for 5 different arts areas. We worked on new credential areas of theater and dance, and we worked on multiple subject subtest 3, which I was here last meeting to talk with you about. And now we're finishing up with the revised CSET Art and CSET Music exams. The Commission adopted the SMRs for these revised examinations at the April 2021 meeting. And since then, we've been working with our contractor to develop these new assessments. And as you know, the CSET development process is a long and involved process that lasts a couple of years. It's outlined on page 2 of your agenda item. And we've been working on these a long time, so we're already down at number 19 in these steps, which is getting the commission approval of a minimum passing standard for the new examinations. So throughout the past fall, we worked with our contractor and subject matter advisory panels of California educators to review the subject matter requirements and all of the items that had been drafted for this, and they were reviewed by our subject matter advisory panels and by the commission's bias review committee. They were field tested under actual testing situations to determine which items were viable for use in the operational forms. And these 2 exams actually just became operational a couple of weeks ago. You can see the structures for both of the tests on page 3 and 4, and I just will point out regarding these test structures that the content domains follow the domains of the 2019 California Art Standards for public schools. So they have creating, presenting, responding, and connecting, and that's a different structure for both the SMRs and the exams than we've had in the past for these 2. Both of the test structures contain 2 subtests, and each of the subtests for each of the exams contains both constructed response and multiple choice questions. The specific standard setting studies for these exams were conducted on October 25th, the 25th through the 28th of this year. And they began with an orientation, as we always do for standard setting, to get the committee of panelists familiar with the exam that they're looking at. They take the test, they talk about their experience taking the test, look real closely at the items, the thinking that goes into responding to each of the items. And then they go through 3 rounds of guided discussion and rating for each of the sections of each of the subtests to give a recommendation about where the minimum passing standard should be for new credential candidates based on the content of the SMRs and the way it's measured by the exams. Table 3 on page 6 of the item shows the panel recommended passing score standards for each section of each subtest. So they did set a separate recommendation for the constructed response portion and the multiple choice portion of each subtest. Because these are low incidence examinations, the standard setting workshop occurred before the test was even operational. So we don't have any what we call impact data to show you, which you've seen me present before, where it'll tell you what the passing rates might be for different groups based on their performance on the actual exams. Again, not very many people take these exams, so we may never have enough data to really make an accurate determination that way. So the recommendations here provided to you are based entirely on the recommendations of the subject matter experts who participated in the standard setting workshops and really considered the content of the exams. Another consideration that you'll want to make that we always talk about is for standard error of measurement. And there's a lot of descriptions of standard error of measurement and what that means in the exam and in the item and in the appendix. But basically, standard error of measurement is a measure of the variance between the score a candidate would get if they were able to perfectly display to us their actual ability, and the score that they may actually achieve based on real world testing circumstances. We know that we don't all necessarily have our best days when we go to take these exams. So to account for that, the commission often sets an adjustment to the panel recommended cut score for standard error measurement. And Table 4 gives you a number of options that you might choose for each of these sections and subtests based on the calculated standard error measurement for each of those sections. Now, you can apply the same SEM adjustment to all subtests or a separate one to each subtest or each section for that matter. That's really up to the commission to decide. What we give you is the panel's recommendations for each of those sections and then the other options that you've got. Again, we don't have any impact data on these. They're real low incidence. We're not likely to have impact data. And then whether to apply an SEM adjustment, that's really something that the commission needs to consider. It's a policy decision that you can make. We do note that it's typical when these tests are introduced, these revised tests, that scores will go up over time as people get more familiar with the subject matter requirements and with the specific content being measured. And we do recommend that you pick the panel recommended cut score and apply some SEM adjustment to that based on your discussion. And that's really up to you guys to determine which of those SEM adjustments you think is most appropriate, and let us know. And if you make a decision today to set a minimum passing standard for these exams, we'll notify the public and be able to get passing scores out to the people who have, or not passing scores, this case may be, to the people who have begun taking this assessment now. It's being administered as we speak. That's all the presentation I've got, and I'm happy to take any questions about this if you have some.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Taylor. We're now going to open for public comment. If there are members of the public that are here and they'd like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card. If you're on Zoom, please click the raise hand, and if you've called in, please press *9. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Okay. Thank you for that. Just give it a second. All right, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? And this will be an action item. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. I have a question about, I guess, process or procedure. When implementing a new assessment, a new CSET, I heard in the report that this is a low incidence field or area, and that this is a new assessment. So I was wondering, process-wise, when we're implementing a new assessment like this, whatever decision we make today, are we married to that for life, or do we revisit it? And if we do, when is that? Because I feel a little unsure without more data to make a more informed decision, but I don't want to prevent that from taking action today. So I guess I want to know, when can we have a redo?
That's really up to the commission. You're able to change these cut scores at any point that you'd like to. And lately, you have asked us with some other assessments to come back in a year when we have more information to look at it again after you set an initial cut score. In this case, I think it's a little tricky because in a year we may still not have enough information, because one of these exams, I was looking at the numbers here, only 50 or so people take all 3 subtests every year. And so that's not really enough data for us to make any generalizable conclusions based on the entire population of the state who might take the test. So that's the issue we have here. But at any time, the commission can revisit these cut scores and look at more information.
Commissioner Sandy, did you want to? Were you gonna? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, just Commissioner De La Torre.
Thank you, Commissioner. I had a question about the participants. So these participants, are they actual participants who are looking to receive actual scores?
No.
No.
Yeah, no, you're talking about the participants in the standard setting study.
Correct.
Yeah, the participants in the standard setting study are people who are working, they're teachers. They're people largely who are working with this credential, or they're teacher preparation program faculty who are working with teachers training to get these credentials. So
they would be at a higher level than person who's interested in entering the field.
Yes.
So their scores
think
would
so.
be skewed.
Right. Well, and that is one thing they consider. The standard setting process that we use really focuses the committee on what they call the hypothetical just prepared candidate who's earning this credential, and what they look for is based on their judgment, either from their own students or their own experience teaching, what it takes, what minimum level of content knowledge in these areas do they need to begin teaching on day one as the teacher of record. And so they really focus on that idea with the whole panel. So yeah, I mean, like any panel-based recommendation, there could be some bias that creeps into it. But in this case, we really work hard with these folks who understand the content areas the best and how they work in teacher preparation to imagine what it would be like to be a brand new teacher again, and what do they think the minimum level of knowledge is for them.
And it's not even a brand new teacher. It's somebody who's going to be a
Right.
brand new teacher.
Sure.
So my concern is that if we set this bar too high, given that there's such a low incidence of people who are pursuing this field, that we might be blocking them out by setting the scores that these experienced individuals attained. I'm just really concerned about that. And I also looked at the SEM, and it seems like I'm not sure. So is the because the scores that were recommended are really close to how they performed.
Well, this doesn't actually have anything to do with performance. So the panel members, they did take the test, but only to familiarize themselves with it. We didn't collect their scores on the tests at all. And so this is just their recommendation based on the number of raw score points on the test.
So it's not how they performed.
No, it's not how they performed at all. Yeah.
So Commissioner De La Torre, can I just add to some of this? I think both Commissioner Brown and Commissioner De La Torre have put a really important point on the table and consideration on the table for whenever you adopt the passing standard for a new examination, because we don't know how it's going to perform over time. We do suspect that performance will improve as the field becomes familiar with the assessment, the exam, as Mr. Taylor pointed out. But what you have made a fairly consistent practice of considering a standard error of measure for your initial passing standard to wait and see. And that is usually at the -1 or -1.5 level, depending on how low the N is, because you don't know how it's going to perform in a bigger population. And it's not inappropriate to be liberal at this point while you see how the examination performs. And again, this is for the CSET, which is used for entrance to preparation. It's not used for exit.
Right.
So it is a demonstration of readiness to be prepared to teach in a field. So someone who passes with a -1 or -1.5 standard error of measure applied to their score is still at that point going to enter a preparation program and become prepared and learn more in the process of becoming prepared about what they're teaching, who they're teaching, and how to teach it. Now, CSET doesn't capture the how you teach it or even who you're teaching. It really tries to stay strictly focused on the content, but that develops during preparation. So if you're concerned about this being if we set it too low, we're going to let unqualified people into the field. That's also an important consideration for you, but you have to take into consideration that these people are entering preparation, and that will contribute to their capacity to do the work as well.
Chair Sloan.
So thank you, Executive Director Sandy, because that was really helpful to understand. And I have been thinking about this as well, because normally we've had, this is a low incidence area, normally we've had test takers showing us the impact of these different scores. So without that at this moment, and given that this is also new, I would recommend that we go with a standard error of measurement of -1.5 and revisit this in a year. And so I'm going to move that we do that.
Okay, does I have a second? Okay, Commissioner Klatt. And then, okay, any other comments? Okay.
I do
Yes,
have a
please.
comment. So I know that one of our options was to look at it in totality or to look at it by subset. And
Right.
I'm thinking that I'm assuming that the motion is for like in totality, the 1.5 for each of the areas, because it's kind of hard for us to know exactly how complex some of these subsets are. So I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure that.
thank you. Yes. But for all areas, 1.5 is what I was thinking. Thanks.
All right. So I have a motion by Commissioner Sloan and it's seconded by Commissioner Klatt to adopt the proposed preliminary passing scores for each of the new examinations and to revisit that in 1 year. With the application of a minus 1.5 standard error. Okay. So commissioners, are we ready to vote? Okay. Clarifying question by Commissioner Taylor-Torrey.
Thank you. So would we have actual scores within a year's time?
We would have some scores. There will have been some people who take the test, but how many it'll be and whether or not that'll be enough data to make it generalizable to the rest of the population remains to be seen.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons.
I'd just like to point out that because we've changed the rules on subject matter so that if you have an academic major in art, not an approved subject matter program, or an academic major in music, we may have even fewer people taking the CSET than they normally would.
As people who haven't got a major in art or music, because that's, I mean, the CSET will be a very efficient way for you to demonstrate your readiness to teach. So is your academic major. But if you don't have the major and you don't have the coursework, you may tend to see lower passing rates on the assessment because the people sitting for it are going to be a different pool than who had to sit for it before. So I think it remains to be seen what the population will look like of test takers that enable us to give you a more robust reading of the data. But I can say Mr. Taylor monitors every testing window and watches to see, are we seeing a negative impact? So for instance, if nobody passes it, we may be back shortly after that finding to say we need to revisit this, right? So that's our normative way. We watch what's happening, we bring it to you. We won't bring it back for a proposed change unless there is a negative impact, or until we have sufficient data to support a score for you. We will report back to you in either case.
Commissioner Taylor-Torrey.
I'm sorry. And I would also like to see a comparison between those who do have a major versus those who achieve through the CSET to see if there's a difference in terms of their ability to perform in the classroom. Because then is this a good measure to get these people into the classroom to teach art and music?
You're asking the gold ring question here. The gold ring that we always want to grasp, and it's very challenging to do it with the data that we have and the ways in which we do it. Performance in the classroom is not something that we have a good data set on. We don't even have a good data set on retention in the classroom. So, but it's worth aspiring to and worth suggesting that other research entities that maybe have different capacity than we do look into that. But, and by virtue of the point that was just made about academic majors qualifying you, so you don't have to take CSET, you're not necessarily going to see a pool of academic majors next to people who don't have the academic major. That said, Mr. Taylor loves this type of analysis, and he will answer as many of your questions as he possibly can at future meetings.
I'd like to throw something else out there for Mr. Taylor, and that's that we do have board certification as an option for achieving certification in these areas. So if we also look at the board certified teachers who may or may not have had the major that are teaching that subject area.
That is something we may be able to get to in the future because we do have a set of background questions we ask these in examinees, and whether or not they have national board certification is one of the questions we ask. So,
okay, we're ready to vote. One more.
How are credentials tagged? If I were to go on the website and look up somebody who has a credential in art, would it say whether that they got their subject matter through examination or through major or through major equivalent?
I don't believe it would. I'm not the expert on what you can see about regarding people's credentials. I just know that that's a data set we've struggled with over the years. Here comes David.
I'm here and I can answer that question. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, thanks for the question, David. The online data system does allow us to see if someone passed the CSET examination by virtue of their authorization statement. So an authorization statement that has an X at the end of the document series, it's a four-letter code. For example, math would be MATH for someone who did not complete their CSET and they did a subject matter coursework program, or now it would be the degree major or a coursework evaluation. But if they have an X at the end of that, so MATX, that would indicate that they took the examination to meet subject matter.
Okay. One last question.
I just wanted to add that all board certified teachers are accessible on the NBCC directory. So I can find all of them in that list.
Okay, I just have one last question, but is there another last question? And another? Okay. Recording secretary, I believe we are ready to vote. Just checking.
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Makita Gwino Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Chair Sloan? Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and thank you, Aaron, for jumping in. My question now goes to the commissioners. If you have the fortitude to do 2B, which is an information item, or do it after lunch. If we do it now, then we can move into closed session, and then the public would not have to wait for us to come back after lunch. So you guys have the fortitude to do 2B? Okay. Do we have, do we have our person? All right, we have Cara Mendoza and Fifi Lau. Okay. Next, we have item 2B, the annual report card on California teacher preparation programs for the ACT year 2020 to 2021. This item is being presented by Cara Mendoza and Fifi Lau. This is an information item. Ms. Mendoza, are you ready to begin? All right, thank you.
To be or not to be? We be. And I'm stalling as our amazing and talented Fifi Lau pulls up
the deck,
her thing, PowerPoint. It's not there, friends. Okay. It's working on getting it back, but I'll start. Thank you. So good afternoon, commission members. Item 2B is the annual report card on California teacher preparation programs for the academic year 2020-2021, as required by Title II of the Higher Education Act. My colleague, Fifi, is working furiously, and I are pleased to bring this agenda item to you today. Why is there a Title II report? Well, annual Title II report has been mandated by federal law under Title II since 1998, which and the mandate was reauthorized in 2008. Earlier today, we heard from our chair and co-chair of the Committee on Accreditation and the updates and the reports that we do here in California in relative to accreditation site visits and the degree to which California educator preparation programs are meeting their program standards. And so for programs that prepare educators, the annual Title II report is another layer of accountability at the federal level. What is the reporting cycle? Well, there are 3 different reports that come together to be the whole of the Title II reporting. First of all, our amazing and talented institutions prepare their reports and submit the institution and program report cards, otherwise known as the IPRC, to the commission. They're on a federal website, but we have access to the data as well. Traditionally, they submit this data in April, but this year was interesting. There was a change in federal contractors, so they had until June to submit their data. After the institutions submit this data, commission staff, that's Fifi, reviews and validates
the data and works with the institutions to, in case there are glitches, errors, things left off. And so there's a little bit of back and forth with institutions until they get their data submitted by the due date and clean and pretty. After this, Fifi works on the California State Report Card, otherwise known as the SRC, and with every other state submits the SRC to the U.S. Department of Education in October. Lastly, there is a national report that's compiled, thankfully not from us, and called the Secretary Report, and that is published the following April for the public to see nationwide. So in April of 23, they will publish the 2020-2021 data. There's a little bit of lag time. It gets a little confusing, but everyone catches up eventually. So Title II reporting for higher education is this national effort, you can see. At this time, I'm going to stop talking and turn the rest of the presentation over to Fifi, who will share with you requirements for Title II reporting and some data of note.
Thank you, Kara, and I believe it's good afternoon now, commissioners. The federal contractor for the Title II designed a web-based data entry tool to collect the IPRC data submitted by institutions in all 50 states and territories. The state report card, the SRC, is also a web-based paperless system and is used by all 50 states and territories as well. The Title II requires submission of the IPRC from institutions approved for the initial teaching credential preparation programs only. So that would only include multiple subject, single subject, and education specialist preparation programs. The report does not include designated subjects or services preparation programs. Only candidates who are earning their initial teaching credentials will be reported. Title II does not require reporting on candidates who are adding authorizations or earning subsequent credentials. Since this is an annual data collection, only candidates earning a new teaching credential are reported every year. There are 3 types of Title II reports available for teacher preparation programs to report on: the traditional route, which is the student teaching program; the alternative IIG-based, which we refer to as the university intern program; and the alternative non-IIG-based route, which is the district intern program. IIGs with an intern program are required to submit 2 separate reports, one for the traditional route and the second for the alternative IIG-based route. Exam pass rate is a big focus in this report. For each assessment, we have to report the number of candidates who took the exam, the number who passed the exam, and the pass rate. All teacher preparation programs report on the following exams: the Basic Skills Exam, the California Subject Examination for Teachers, the CSET, the Reading Instruction Competence Assessment, the RICA, and starting in 2018-19 academic year, the Teaching Performance Assessment, the TPA. It is important to note that the basic skill exam options include CBES, CSET multiple subject plus writing, the CSU exams, SAT, ACT, and AP exams. Other non-exam basic skill options include the out-of-state basic skills, coursework, and coursework plus other options. Only state-approved and licensed exams such as CBES and the CSET options will include the pass rates and be in the final SRC report. The pass rate data are calculated for 5 different groups. Group 1, which is the enrolled candidates who completed all non-clinical coursework. Group 2, the other enrolled candidates. Group 3, which would be the program completers for current year 2020-21, and Group 4 and 5, program completers for the previous 2 years, 2019-20 and 2018-19 respectively. In addition to institutional pass rate information, the Title II report includes information on a number of other topics. Data elements submitted through the IPRC are listed on page 2, table 1 of the agenda item. Similarly, data elements that were submitted for the SRC are listed on page 3, table 2 of the agenda item. As you can see, most of the data elements from the IPRCs are listed on the state report card. After teacher preparation programs submit their IPRCs, those data will be preloaded in the state report card. Now let's get to the fun part, which we will be delving into the selected findings in the 2020-21 report. Before we actually go into the selective findings, I want to mention that the data displayed on the following selective findings presentation slides are available on the Commission's Title II dashboard pages. Let me see if I can. So at the bottom of each slide, okay, well, it's over here. My mouse isn't working, but yes. At the bottom of each slide, you will find the link to the specific dashboard page. And actually, let me readjust the page really quick. Okay, before, okay, there we go. So at the bottom of each slide, you will find a link to the specific Title II dashboard page. And since the data visualizations are all pulled from those dashboards, you can refer to the figure number to find the data on the dashboards. To access the Title II dashboards, you can click the main Title II webpage link on page 3 of the agenda item and go to the dashboard and annual report cards section. With that in mind, let's start with the distribution of institutions and reports by route on agenda item page 4, table 3, and also on this presentation slide. So there was a total of 156 reports submitted by 98 institutions for academic year 2020-21. Out of the 156 reports, there were 84 traditional program reports, 58 alternative IG-based, the university interns, and 14 alternative non-IG-based district intern reports submitted. The Title II report starts with Section 1, Program Information on page 5 of the agenda item. It is a pretty long section with numerous data tables with information on admission requirements such as GPA, supervised clinical hour requirements, and demographic information for total enrollment, including the subset of program completers in 2020-21. So let's start with the clinical experience hours reported in Section 1 on page 7 and 8 of the agenda item. On the left panel of the presentation slide, data show that in 2020-21, there were 40 institutions that reported 600 to 699 hours required for student teaching, and 6 that reported 700 and more hours. Oops. If we take a look at the number of clinical hours prior to student teaching, we can see that most institutions, about 87%, reported less than 200 hours. On the right panel of the presentation slide, if we combine clock hours for both prior to student teaching and for student teaching, we can see that 98% of institutions met the mandated 600 hours of clinical experience in 2020-21. The trend of institutions providing 600 plus hours of clinical experience has been increasing. Let's take a look at candidate demographic information next. To start with, the gender distribution of total enrollment is available on page 8, table 6A of the agenda item, and on the left panel of the presentation slide. Starting in 2018-19, Title II collects the number of total enrollment, in which a subset will be the number of program completers. When looking at gender distribution by program route in 2020-21, in the traditional program, there were 74% female, 25% male, less than 1% not reported or reported as other. In alternative programs, we can see that there were a slightly higher percentage of males, 28% in the IEG-based intern route, and 32% in the not IEG-based intern route. Table 6A and the right panel of the presentation slide displays race ethnicity distribution of total enrollment. Similarly to the previous year for the total enrollment in all program routes, less than half were white, about a third were Hispanic, Latino, Bini race, 7% Asian, 4% Black or African American, less than 1% American Indian or Alaska Native, less than 1% Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and 5% identify themselves as belonging to 2 or more races. 11% did not report race or ethnicity. Also on the presentation slide, you can see the distribution of gender and race ethnicity for the program completers. The data are also available starting on page 14, Table 6I of the agenda item. In addition, the 5-year demographic trends by segment starts back on page 10 with Table 6C. On page 13, Table 6G of the agenda item, and also on the presentation slide, we can see the 5-year trend of the total enrollment. There was an overall of 10% increase of candidate enrollment in all routes between 2016-17 and 2020-21. When looking at the data by program route, there was a bigger increase in the alternative routes than in the traditional route in the past 5 years. So 17% increase for the IEG-based intern route, a 54% increase for not IEG-based intern route, and a small 7% increase for traditional route. Next, let's take a look at the distribution of program completers by subject area starting on agenda item page 16 and on the left panel of the presentation slide. When looking at traditional route, nearly half of the program completers were prepared in elementary education. Whereas in the alternative routes, more than 1/3 of program completers were prepared in special education. On agenda item page 17 and on the right panel of the presentation slide, data show the distribution of program completers by academic major. More than half of program completers were prepared in social sciences in both the traditional and alternative routes. The next largest preparation group that makes up about 1/5 is the other academic major. The other includes non-teaching majors, combined majors, non-subject specific majors, and advanced degrees. Moving on to the annual goals section on page 21, table 9A of the agenda item and on the presentation slide displays the annual goals data for math, science, and special education. More than 2/3 of traditional programs met their goals in math and science. And more than 3/4 of alternative programs met their goals in special education, 79% for IEG-based intern and 92% for not IEG-based intern programs. Next, the assessment information is available starting on page 35 of the agenda item. Table 14A on page 38 specifically provides the statewide pass rates for program completers by program route for the 2020-21 academic year. The presentation slide displays the 5-year statewide pass rate trend for all exam types for each candidate group. When looking at program completer statewide pass rates, there was a decrease in 2020-21 for the CSET, the RICTA, and the TPA in all program routes from the prior year. Aside from the selected findings presented so far, the Title II report includes additional information such as the credential requirements, standards and criteria, additional information about the alternative routes, program performance, and how to determine and assist low-performing institutions to meet the Commission's standards of quality and effectiveness. Additional information on teacher shortage and how the state has addressed it so far, and other statewide improvement efforts to improve the quality of the teaching workforce are also provided in the report. These information are included in the state report card for submission to the U.S. Department of Education. Title II is a federal mandate where programs certify and submit their IPRCs in April, but for the 2020-21 data collection year, the submission deadline was in June. Following the IPRC submission, the state submits its report to the U.S. Department of Education in October. So in this presentation, we highlighted key findings in the 2020-21 report, such as the increase of total enrollment in all program routes from the prior year. More than half of total candidates identified themselves as non-white. Higher percentage of males enrolled in alternative programs versus the traditional program. Higher percentage of teachers prepared in special education were enrolled in an alternative program. And more than half of teachers held a social sciences academic major, and assessment pass rates vary by route and segment. All of the data elements reported by the teacher preparation programs are displayed in the Commission's Title II dashboards. The 2020-21 data file is available in the appendix for quick data access and for data transparency. And on behalf of the Commission, we again want to thank all of the preparation programs in submitting their information so that the state can continue to achieve 100% response rate every year. This is an information-only item. Thank you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks so much, and thank you for the wonderful visualization for the data that's also in our packet, so thank you. So we all have multiple ways to look at the information. We're now going to open for public comment. If there are members of the public that are here, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking, if you're on Zoom, click on the raise hand icon, and if you're on phone, press star 9. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Melissa Figueroa, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Figueroa, and I'm representing the Education Trust West. First off, I'd like to thank you for this report and the wealth of data available on the Title II data dashboards. Research shows that when teachers reflect the diversity of their students, students thrive both academically and social emotionally. For example, Black students who have at least one Black teacher between kindergarten and 3rd grade are 7% more likely to graduate from high school and 13% more likely to enroll in college. In spite of this evidence, our educator workforce is still far from being representative of the students in California's classrooms. As of 2018-19, over half of California's schools, serving roughly 78,000 Black students, had no Black teachers on staff. The report card shared today shows that of the over 30,000 candidates enrolled or having completed in the traditional route in 2020-21, only 3.4% were Black, despite the fact that Black students comprise over 5% of our state's students. Latino candidates made up 35% of candidates, though over half of all K-12 students are Latino. And Asian candidates comprise 7.6% of all traditional candidates, falling short of parity with the share of Asian students across the state, which is roughly 9.5. When we look at these data over the last 5 years, we see a concerning decrease in the percent of Black candidates across all 3 segments at CSU, UC, and private institutions, while the percent of Latino candidates has plateaued over the last several years. Though the data included in the report card reflect elements required by the Higher Education Act, we need not stop there as a state when working to measure equity gaps in recruitment and completion. We hope the CTC can continue its good work to help connect these data with information about how many candidates begin but fail to complete these programs by race ethnicity to understand where the pipeline is leaky, look at where institutions or programs have room for improvement in how they're getting candidates, especially candidates of color, to and through programs and into the classroom, and to better help target strategies and supports to increase retention and completion. Along similar lines, it would be helpful to consider teacher certification assessment pass rates on exams like CBEST and TPA by race ethnicity, which we appreciated were linked in this report and think are especially important as they reveal that the average pass rates for completers do mask disparities in pass rates among groups that programs can and should be working to close. The report card and the data it contains help illuminate equity gaps within a critical segment of the educator pipeline, the period of professional preparation. But having information about a need or problem to be addressed is only the beginning. We at the Education Trust West hope the CTC, state leaders, and higher ed institutions will actively work to use this valuable information to inform the development of comprehensive solutions that can meaningfully increase diversity in the educator workforce. We look forward to partnering with the Commission to that end, and we thank you for the work you do on behalf of California students and for the opportunity to provide comment today.
Thank you, Melissa, for providing comments and the additional data. Are there other public comments?
There are no additional public comments.
Okay. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. I really appreciate this report and the level of detail. Thank you so much to the staff for putting it all together and making it so comprehensible. I'm especially interested in the last 2 paragraphs on page 53. And those 2 paragraphs are really around how COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the pipeline. And I see in this item that we know that the pipeline was significantly impacted by the pandemic. And in the second paragraph, it really talks about that we're still feeling that ripple effect and that it really requires statewide attention. So I was wondering, as far as that last paragraph, we talk about how the commission continues to monitor the number of candidates and program completers that aren't quite yet done for whatever reason. They haven't met one of the statewide requirements. And I was wondering, I know it may not be necessary for this report, but is it possible to come back to us at some point with some data about what elements are not completed for those that have already been through a program? Where might they need support? Because it talks about how we need to put our attention toward this, but I would like to know more about put our attention toward which part, because I think that might inform how we could respond, and it might also inform the field at large about how these people who have been through a program might still be needing something. But I don't know what that something is. I would like to know more about that for future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Do I have other questions? I think for me, I would just like to reiterate some of the comments that Ed Trust West made around looking at disaggregating, but also aligning this to some of the other research that's out there, and to be able to almost provide us with a larger landscape and how we are trending compared to the rest of the data. I found that really compelling. Other commissioners? Okay. Well, this is this is an information item. Yes. Commissioner Grenishire.
Just really quickly, I appreciate that last comment. If I might add a friendly amendment, could the commission partner with existing institutions to have that kind of landscape analysis? I'm thinking Chair Sloan's, not going to have anything to do in the next year. So perhaps partnering with CTERN or other institutions, partnering with EdQ at the CSU Center. So we have some existing capacity in the state to help the commission, so that the commission is not doing this on our own.
Yeah. Do you guys have any comments, or Ms. Mendoza? Okay. Or Executive Director Sandy?
The data reports are very generative. Have you noticed this?
Yes.
At the commission table and with our education partners? We always, this set of data and the teacher supply data in particular, you put those together and it raises myriad questions about what's happening with, the recruitment preparation, licensing, retention, and attrition of teachers. We want that. We all want that. And in fact, we have, I think it is 3 positions that are currently open, looking for research specialists. And any of you that know any quant people who are interested in positions here, we have great opportunity here to bring in the kind of skill set to augment Fifi and Kara and the team to get into the questions that we're interested in. And certainly as we get into strategic planning, some of which we're going to do some tomorrow, and a continuing theme of strategic planning from the commission has been data-informed decision-making and being able to have data that really sheds light on appropriate next steps. Always remaining cognizant of our mandate and what steps we can take, what steps others can take to improve conditions. But the data certainly helps us to identify where the issues spot, to quote the lawyers. Where might there be issues and we all have a hunger for that as well. So we will, this is an emerging area of work, and as we staff up, we'll have far more capacity to participate.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I appreciate you all always leveraging the mandated reports to be more than that. And I really appreciate your staff, and that data is always first and foremost, and you guys are always looking at ways you can leverage the data, whether it's required or whether it's triangulating it with other current data. So I think on that note, we can go ahead and close 2B, since it's an information item only, and I don't see any other additional questions or comments. And thank you guys for sharing with us and for your time. And from that, I believe I will recess the educator committee for the day.
Great. Well done, commissioners. All right. So I will now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will reconvene at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I propose we have a 1-hour lunch break. That's all right with you? She's the one who said. All right, so we just be back in our seats. You've got a little over an hour to be in your seats by 2 o'clock. We're starting at 2 o'clock. We got a lot of closed session to do.